Yes, we will be discussing Barack Hussein Obama and much more. It has been reported by Tulsi Gabbard that Barack Obama was behind one of the assassination attempts on President Donald Trump. Put on your seatbelts. July 23rd, 2025. Welcome to the Global Defense War Monthly Panel. We will be discussing the most recent turn of events as Commander-in-Chief and President Donald J. Trump dismantles the deep state shadow government cabal once and for all. We will cover from a military perspective just what is going on behind the scenes, as well as making sense of the recent events from Epstein to Clinton to Obama. While there is still a ways to go yet, it seems to me that evil is beginning to lose its grip in this spiritual battle of which we are engaged. This global operation and systemic purification is well underway as we restore our constitutional republic. Thank you to our president, Donald J. Trump. And I am John Michael Chambers. Thanks for being here. So turn down the noise of much of what the podcaster world, and certainly from the mainstream media, are saying, and listen closely to our panel of military and intelligence experts. Our esteemed panel today consists of 5 wartime correspondents: retired Lieutenant Colonel Riccardo Bosi, former Australian Army Special Forces; retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox; Michael Jaco, retired veteran, dedicated a total of 35 years serving the U.S. government in high-risk environments; retired Army Derek Johnson, expert on tabulating and covering the Commander-in-Chief Donald J. Trump's laws and orders and current events; and Josh Reid, joining us the first time on this panel, 10 years in the Navy, Petty Officer Second Class, a deep dive researcher, popular podcaster in the MAGA and Patriot movement. This is a panel of experts with military and intelligence careers, having served this nation, some with combat experience as well, to cut through the noise, to help keep us all informed through their analysis of what is going on in this war and where things are heading. So I want to thank you all, gentlemen, for your service first and foremost to your country and continued service as civilians. It's great to see you all again. Welcome back. I will proceed. I'd like to address what I believe are the concerns and confusions of what is on the minds of not only the American people, but people all over this world. These are the 4 subjects we will take on in this episode, but feel free to raise issues that you feel are important to discuss at any time, even if it's not on my docket. So today we're going to discuss, just for our audience, to let you know where we are heading, we're going to discuss recent events concerning the Epstein issue and the dissent within the MAGA movement, something I call CEC, the crow-eating clan. We're going to talk about, number 2, a fire hose of action from President Donald J. Trump and the administration: criminal investigations, tribunals, executions, etc. Number 3, we're going to dive into defining these things: Genesis, clarity, XRP, CBDC, and the US dollar. And we'll hear a clip from Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene that I'd like our panel to weigh in on. And finally, the last question we'll serve up to this esteemed panel is the movie. You know, we're watching a movie, it's a show. The central casting, how does that work? Really break that down. And who's dead and who's alive? It's time to go there. And again, if time allows, at the conclusion of these 4 questions, we'll have an open floor panel for our wartime correspondents to raise any issues that may not have been raised. So let's begin with the Epstein Files debacle, I'll call it. Maybe not. And with all that has transpired since, it seems like, to me, the Epstein issue is old news already. But I'd like to have this panel on the record on this broadcast as to what really just took place over this last week or 2 concerning the Epstein issue. Let's tackle that so we can get to question number 2 concerning Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and President Trump's moves against the deep state players, as this is happening right now and unprecedented. But it's time, and nothing can stop what's coming. There is absolute panic in D.C. All right, so I will pipe down now. Let's begin with Lieutenant Colonel Riccardo Bosi. I will ask the same question of the rest of the panel. Welcome back, sir. It's good to see you. I know you and I, this is sort of an announcement to the audience, just covered this question on our premiere broadcast bi-monthly of Bosi Briefs. But let's get it on the record here on the panel today. So from your view, sir, what just went down concerning the Epstein release and all the fanfare and debacle that has followed since?
Okay, very quickly. Thanks, John. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure. Good morning, gentlemen. Good to see you here. Very quickly, Trump was being Trump. That's a short version of what we're seeing. If you remember when he was first in as a presidential candidate, there's a great line from the Atlantic Monthly, not much of a magazine, but some good articles. And the message that came through after his election victory was that his supporters took him seriously, but not literally, and his adversaries took him literally, but not seriously. And that was the problem that they had. And so the MAGA movement grew. They knew he was unpresidential. He even admitted he was not presidential. And so for him to come out and say, well, Epstein's old news. And Pam Bondi said, well, I don't have it, but I did have it, but I don't have it. And then you got Bongino and Kash Patel saying, well, there's nothing there. Okay, the first thing that comes to mind is one, misdirection. If there's a flash and a bang in one place, you know that's where they want you to look, and they don't want you to look elsewhere. So in and of itself, it's not a big story. It appears to be those who are deep in the weeds in what's going on and not actually paying attention to the whole narrative. DJT himself said, "I'm not going to telegraph my moves." So if he's saying and doing odd things, take that 24, 48, 72-hour break to understand that something else is going on. Watching the response in the MAGA move, that's point one, misdirection. Point two, it's a tell that it's not in the hands of the the DOJ or the FBI or other organizations, because who's running the show? The military's running the show. So who's really going to be doing this? The military. Have they done it? Probably. And so it's another series of reveals. Thirdly, in terms of the reveals, the fact that he's saying it means maybe we should be looking somewhere else. Not that it's done in the minds of the MAGA people, and not that it's even finished, but there are things we need to be looking at if we're not careful. Now, the prism through which, and I'll be very quick on this, the prism through which to watch all of this, to make it a lot easier for people to understand, is this. Now, I heard once before that the business of America is business. So let's use a stock market example. You got two types of buyers. You got the buy and hold and the buy and sell. You got the people that do the detailed fundamental analysis of the company. You know, what's the business model? What's their competitive advantage? What's their management team like? What's their market share like? And they look at the detail of it all and they say, well, this is a buy and hold sort of company. And then you got the others, the buy and sell, the day traders who live on antacid tablets and will jump and squeal at every up and downturn of the market itself. And so if you're a buy and sell type of guy, you'll be panicking throughout all of this, because you need moment by moment adjustment. If you're a buy and hold like I am, you look at the fundamentals, you look at the business model. And what's the business model for the US? Constitutional Republic. That's a great business model. What are they doing? Sovereignty to the people. What's their competitive advantage? Brand recognition. The USA, the greatest nation that ever was, built on the promise of the equality of man based on Christian values. First time it's been tried, and it's still going strong, which is fantastic. The management team. Have a look at the management team. A man with a track record in real estate in New York. Now, you don't survive there 10 minutes if you're not tough as old boots and as cunning as a fox. And so the guy's got history. So don't panic. Cut the guy some slack. Understand and believe that he has the ability to pull this thing off. And so away you go. These two perspectives to have. So if you're a buy and hold, you're a blue chip investor, you bite, you hang on to it, and you know the trend of the market. It's always up over time. Then you'll be nice and relaxed like I am. I put my money on Trump a long time ago, and I knew that this is the only blue chip stock on the planet, politically speaking. So I'm not the least bit fussed when things appear to go pear-shaped. But if you're a day trader, you're panicking, you're running around with your hair on fire and wondering what's going on. So whatever happens with Epstein and everything else, to be honest, because he said he wasn't going to telegraph his moves, take that 24, 72, 96 hours just to process what is going on, see the narrative in its bigger move, and then you'll be quite relaxed about it. And you can, as you say, you can serve up big plates of crow to all those that tore their party dress and ran away.
So well said. Thank you very much, Riccardo Bosi. And I loved your analogy of the business and the market. I'm glad we've got that on the record. Makes all the sense in the world. We've got the same question. We'll go around. Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox, for returning to the panel. It's good to see you, sir. How would you like to weigh in on the Epstein issue that's on the table right now?
Well, I really enjoyed what Carlos said about the market and the movement of the people in the marketplace. And what I see is people don't understand that Donald Trump is not doing anything different than he said he was going to do 20 years ago when he became president. Nobody assumed he would ever be president. And the Epstein thing is a side event. It has nothing to do with what's really going on. And when I look at it and I see the different articles from different people, I see that we're moving forward not the way the media thinks, not the way the people that follow the Epstein file think, but the way Donald Trump thinks in the art of war. And we're fighting an art of war. And he's a 5-dimensional chess player who's probably smarter than anybody in the room. And that's what I see going on. I see him putting up all these false things so that the people that are really doing the work can do the work.
So well said. Thank you, sir. And off the heels of that, we can expect some more things, some ripples, perhaps, and hopefully the comments and analysis from Lieutenant Colonel Riccardo Bosi and Tom Lennox calms the waters moving forward. Take the next question of Michael Jaco. And Michael, I caught a bit of a podcast you put out just a couple of 3-4 days or something like that after the Epstein thing sort of exploded. And your words and analysis resonated very much with me. Do you care, please, to weigh in and elaborate on, especially now that some time has passed, what's really gone down with the Epstein debacle?
Yeah, well, the Epstein file basically, it's like small potatoes. You look at what's going on now. So Trump was like, "Hey, that's nothing, and why are you guys still focused on that? It's old stuff." And it is. It's old stuff. Now we have Obama. So Obama is like in the spotlight now. That's far bigger than Epstein. And this is what President Trump wanted us to start look at. He wanted to see who is going to get into the minutia of the Epstein files. The Epstein files are, yes, they're bad, but there's far bigger things to look at. And that's Obama and all the people in Intel service that basically came after President Trump. And that goes way back. It goes before he even came into office the first time. And now we're starting to see that it's going to look at the elections. It's going to look at the financial side. It's going to take a lot of these movers and shakers out of the picture. And I know we're going to talk about, possibly other people that have already, maybe stood trial. I think we're going to start to see that. I think there's a very good possibility that we could see everything get shut down because these guys are going to, try and do some very hinky stuff in the big cities with the army they basically brought into America and Europe and maybe even Australia and New Zealand. So we have to look at a bigger picture here, and he's trying to push us in that direction. Epstein will be handled when it gets handled. If I want to take down an army, I'm not going to go after the privates. I'm going after the generals. So I want the generals, and that's where we're going right now. So we're going to take out the head of this corrupt, organization, the deep state, and their money system, Federal Reserve, getting ready to be taken out. But we've already had President Trump, start the Treasury Department back in, when he came in office first time, and President Biden did nothing to, take that down because Biden wasn't really there, was he? So we've seen a lot of these people already removed from positions. has Obama already been removed from position? And we've had an actor in playing Obama, very possibly. But in the meantime, there is a huge reveal that's going on, and people are starting to see a bigger picture here. So I've seen already that there's masses of amounts of information that's starting to come down about Obama and him personally. And that's going to really turn a lot of people that are still, stuck on Obama thinking he's a good guy. That's going to take them away from him. They're not going to support him anymore. And that is the process we've been seeing for a long time. A lot of us have talked about this for, years now, that Obama was in the background doing stuff. But was he? Who is really in the background? Who is above Obama? So we're just starting to move into higher zones. So Obama, all these intel heads and so forth, they're going to be taken down. But I think there's a lot more above them. So it's beginning stages.
Excellent. And to everyone listening, because I know the narrative may be running through people's heads, let's not put this Epstein thing on the back burner. After all, the atrocities against the children, we all get that. We understand that. This panel knows this very well. And these children will be rescued and are being rescued, and this will come to an end. But Michael, the statement that I'd like our audience to take away, what you just shared with us, is Epstein will get handled when it gets handled. Okay, it's over here, as you just stated, and the issue's been raised. And you raised another great point, Mike, about Biden did not rescind these things, and Derek has alluded to certain issues as well. So with that, we'll go to Derek Johnson. Thank you, Derek, for being here. Good to see you. Weigh in on the Epstein issue, if you will, please.
Well, it's you remember what President Trump calls the weave? Well, Epstein's kind of like a weave, right? It weaves into this, but it's not the bigger picture. It's like Jaco just said, it's small potatoes. But as long as the law shows we're still in the continuity of government, we're in a continuity of government. And then also the law also shows that we've been in a puppet government, which my grandfather will be gone 20 years this September. He lied about his age to get into the Army. And he's the one that served during the puppet government, 43 to 45. And that's the one who taught me about puppet governments, the tactics and all that. So no offense to my brothers in arms here, but you'd think I'm the old man on the scene here, sitting here talking about puppet governments, but this took place in the 40s. So it's nothing new to people who know about it, study about it, but especially military. The other thing that you see President Trump do is the tip of the spear. Every time he's in any kind of meeting or whatever it may be, but any kind of meeting, this right here, even with Diddy, he had the tip of the spear. That's not Space Force. That's also not Illuminati, depending on who it is saying what. So 2008, you got to go back to 2008. Epstein took a state plea deal, a state of Florida. All right. Who was the president? Bush. All right. So this all ties back there. I have the Biden laptop report book, the Marco Polo that Rudy Giuliani and another guy gave to this research team. It ties all these people together. So, President Trump always says, be careful what you wish for. So when you get people stirred up out there, all sides, everybody can know what I know. It's all public information. It's just a matter of studying the right things and putting it all together. But all these people out there on the left and the right, they're asking for this, they're asking for this, they're asking for it. And that's also a part of the art of war, as Lieutenant Colonel Lennox said. All right, it's part of art of war. So you're asking for it. So, hey, we'll give it to you. It also ties into what Jaco and I've talked about. I was reading 23-939, which is a Supreme Court docket case on the Supreme Court docket, Donald J. Trump versus United States government. I called, I texted his wife really fast. I said, hey, you got to get him on. Let's do this. I was in South Dakota. And it also goes to show that all of us sitting here, you can be exempt from taking orders that may be unlawful, because guess what the military doesn't do? It don't teach you laws. It doesn't teach you orders. It don't even teach you regulations. And most of us know right here on this board that everybody that takes a promotion test, if you're on the promotion side, the enlisted side, they cram study for their promotions. All right. They don't know regulations all the time. So that's, that's on the military, and that's going to change as well. just like they just put the first Marine Corps commander over the Naval Academy. So we're going to see some changes in the military, drastic changes. But this all ties into Obama. All right. President Trump's been tweeting and truthing, whatever you want to call it, putting out all roads lead to Obama. Reshare if you'd like to see military tribunals. So there's that. Executive Order 13848, the Russiagate, that ties into that. All right, the election interference. Why would, quote unquote, Joe Biden, if he was real, continue 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies that are deporting illegal migrants, Doge, taking the Panama Canal back, and election interference, and also freezing the Chinese, anything Chinese that you're supporting the Chinese Communist military or the PRC? Why would he do that? All right, so that's a puppet government. So there's a lot of optics here. There's a lot of real over here. But as President Trump says, be careful what you wish for. And the only people who can exonerate President Trump is not him. It's not us. It's not military. All right, it's going to be the other side. So you saw, if you've seen the Hunter Biden interview, the 3-hour interview, he's telling on himself. And all the photos that they showed on that video, which is an authentic video, are all in this Marco Polo book over here, the Hunter Biden report. All right, that everybody told me 3 years ago when I posted that. I had patriots saying that's nasty and why would you want something like that? Like, I don't want this, but it's proof of what all the ties, Hunter, Joe, Obama, Bill, and all these people of the swamp, they all tie together. And that's what the bigger picture is. That's the iceberg.
Wow, very well said. And I really clearly see, as I listen to the panel, the implementation from multiple aspects of the art of war happening right before us. Thank you, Derek. We'll take the question of Josh Reid. Thank you, Josh, for joining us first time on the panel. It's great to have you here. How would you like to weigh in on the Epstein issue?
Well, first, in agreement with a lot of these gentlemen here, Derek was spot on. It's directly interconnected with everything that we're seeing. And what Jaco was saying is we have to hammer down on FISA-Gate, because FISA-Gate is the string that you begin to pull. And when you begin to pull that, it unravels everything prior to 2016. We're talking about Uranium One. We're talking about Benghazi. We're talking about the leaked CIA knock list. All of these things, which are capital offenses that were committed by the Obama administration, become unraveled. And then after 2020 election, COVID-19, all of this stuff, the assassination attempts on Donald Trump, this is all interconnected. In the Epstein list, interesting enough, and I wouldn't even call it a list, the Epstein files are intertwined with this. So we just saw the questioning for the release of the grand jury information. This is the grand jury testimony. Within this, from what we are hearing, is there's connections to John Brennan utilizing it from the CIA directly, using the compromise from the Epstein files to coerce people along with FISA-Gate. So that's one key part here. And so you're not going to start with Epstein files and then move outward to FISA-Gate. You start with FISA-Gate. Like I think Jaco said, is you start with the generals instead of going after the soldiers. Absolutely true. The other part of this is that Donald Trump has the compromise. He has the compromised information and the names of the people who are compromised. This is incredible leverage if we start to look at it from a geopolitical and geoeconomic standpoint. He's in the midst of doing renegotiations of the entire world with trade deals. He's got the Jeffrey Epstein compromise that Mossad, MI6, CIA, MSS all had on these people, and now he can hold it over their head, whether they know it or not, and utilize it to his advantage to renegotiate better deals for the United States of America to where we're no longer in a trade deficit. Okay? Then there's this other part, and I think Derek was talking about this, is that we have this optics, this perception that Elon Musk comes out and says Trump is on the Epstein files. Then he says Bannon's on the Epstein files. The Democrats go crazy. CNN's calling for the release of the Epstein files. Today, the Democrats are calling for the release of the Epstein files. Now, what does that do? It brings the left, the right, the moderates, and the independents. It brings everybody to the perspective of paying attention to the Epstein files and saying, hey, you need to release this. You need to put this out there. And Donald Trump's going to have the last laugh on this. And if we go back and look at the expansion of how all the Epstein file stuff came about, 2017, Donald Trump had a fake argument with Bannon. We know how Donald Trump likes these fake feuds with people, whether it's DeSantis, Tucker, or whoever it might be. But Bannon leaves the White House, and where does he go? He goes and spends the next 12 months with Jeffrey Epstein, recording over 16 hours of interview footage. Immediately after Bannon's done with Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein gets arrested, and just a few months later, he's dead, quote unquote, dead. Well, in other words, did Bannon go out there and get video testimony directly of Jeffrey Epstein admitting to all of his crimes and naming all the actors and the potential players that are organized within this? Did Bannon hand that over to Donald Trump? Did he give his insurance policy directly to Bannon to give to Donald Trump? Is this why Ghislaine is still in jail today? Is Jeffrey Epstein absolutely still alive under 18 U.S.C. 3521? WITSEC. Is that why Barr went and visited him in prison before it all happened? We got testimony from people at the prison that Bill Barr was there that morning of, and that Jeffrey Epstein was removed through wheelchair the night of, just a few hours before it was announced that he committed suicide. So is Jeffrey Epstein still alive? And is this the grand show that Donald Trump is leading up to? He's playing this bad guy ploy that, hey, I'm the president, I'm covering this up because my name might be on the list. And then at the last minute, in walks Jeffrey Epstein to testify in front of Congress, or in walks Ghislaine Maxwell handing over the complete Epstein files that shows the corruption and the competence of the Democrats directly involved with it, as well as Mossad, CIA, and the operations that they ran against world leaders, politicians, heads of state. We're talking business owners, a large business organization, heads, CEOs, so forth. I think that that's what we're about to see. But as everybody said, FISA-gate comes first. You have to bring this to the public attention. And you got to remember, on the cue boards, it's all three movies playing at the same time. You have Guardians of the Pedophiles, you have Panic in DC, and then you have FISA-gate. FISA-gate was just opened up. And if you go back to the cue boards in July, it says movie 1 playing now. The other 2, movie 2 this fall, movie 3 to be determined. And so they're going in reverse. FISA-gate starting it. Panic in DC is this fall. And then the third movie is Guardian of the Pedophiles, which will come down last. Because we also have to remember that this compromise. So there's a part of Jeffrey Epstein that many people don't know, and I want to kind of just explain this real quick, is he wasn't a broker of children to pedophiles. He was a broker of children to everybody. And that meant for everything, from organ harvesting to child slavery, to child sex trafficking, to pharmaceutical and biomedical companies for biomedical research. And I've written about this extensively. There's a much, much darker side to what Epstein was doing, along with military programs and the deep state intelligence apparatus. And so this is going to come out. But the first thing you have to do is you have to expose people like Podesta, because that's who he was brokering to. So we're going to see the reversal. FISA-gate is going to extend the 2020 election, COVID-19, assassination attempts. It's going to extend back Benghazi, Ukraine, Podesta emails, WikiLeaks. We're going to get to Uranium One. All of the crimes and corruption is going to be brought to the surface, and Epstein Files brings it all together.
Excellent analysis. Thank you very much, Josh. And you mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell a few times. I don't have the fresh off the press news on this, but it sure seems like she may be testifying to Congress, answering some questions. That's hook, line, and sinker with some of your analysis. And boy, I look forward to that. And the subject of the movies, we're going to get to that in our final question. Thank you for raising that. Very, very important. We're going to move on to our second question to the panel. The moment that everybody's been waiting for, the big arrest. To our panel, please refrain from discussing who's allegedly reported as dead already, because we're going to get to that in question 4 when we talk about central casting and the layers of movies that Josh just alluded to. Okay, so the big arrest. Let's run through some of these images to my producer. Image number, here we go. I'll just read these. President Trump, Obama himself manufactured the Russia hoax, Crooked Hillary, Sleepy Joe, and numerous others participated in this, the crime of the century, irrefutable evidence, a major threat to our country. Next image, please. All right, General Michael Flynn, and very vocal and very prominent on the internet. General Flynn demands arrest of Obama, Brennan, Comey, and deep state cabal over coup against Trump. Tulsi Gabbard calls for Obama to be prosecuted over 2016 election claims. Trump intelligence chief accuses ex-president and others of treasonous conspiracy for alleging Russian interference. Next image, please. Next image is Tulsi Gabbard. There she is. Tulsi, all right, this is our good friend Nino who put this out, but basically she was on Maria Bartiromo, as we know, a couple of weeks back, which is what kicked this whole thing off. And part of what she says here is the whistleblowers are coming out of the woodwork. Boy, we are unloading on them. We have, as Trump said, we have everything on everyone. All right, next image is Tulsi Gabbard. Next image. General Flynn, again, this is surreal. Here in America, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, is now stating emphatically that a former president of the United States, Barack Hussein Obama, attempted a coup against the president, Donald J. Trump. This is why Tulsi was attacked so relentlessly over the past few weeks and months. They knew if there was anyone with the guts to investigate the attempted coup, it would be her. Hats off to Tulsi Gabbard from General Michael Flynn, who took one for the team back in the day. They had to get to Flynn to get to Trump. And boy, did that disrupt things, and certainly the general's life. But boy, did they lose, and are we winning today? Let me see where we go now. I'd like to run this clip. We'll get to the second question in just a moment. Let's take a look at this video.
Short on your dough, you can stay there, and I'm sure you will find many ways to have a good time.
Why am I showing that? Because the president re-truthed it, tweeted it, whatever word you like to use. He put that out there. That's right. So the walls are closing in on the proverbial chessboard. We, in my opinion, have the deep state at check, with checkmate just around the corner. The Department of Justice honored Chairman Grassley's request to receive information related to Comey's failed investigation into Hillary Clinton's mishandling of the highly classified information when she was Secretary of State. Walls are closing in. We have Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who are very busy, among other things, launching criminal investigations now into Comey, Brennan, and the rest of the clowns over there. And then we have Pelosi, and the J6 files has led now, according to Kash Patel, to actionable evidence against Pelosi and others. And now this explosive move by Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI, as the DOJ prepares the indictment for treason, espionage, and seditious conspiracy of former President Barack Obama. Punishment for treason, according to the Founding Fathers, is death. Is his arrest imminent? So please weigh in on these historic events, Lieutenant Colonel Riccardo Bosi. Take it away, sir. We've got no sound, Riccardo. No sound. Thank you.
How's that? Is that better?
We got you.
Okay. I'll speak to the issues as if they're actually real. Let me put it that way. And we can talk about what's behind the scenes. So
Yes.
we have people calling for the first black president to be arrested for treason, with the possibility of capital punishment on the line. This is an extraordinary marker. And just to put into perspective, do you remember the pushback that DJT received from the baying crowd when he suggested that maybe Barack Obama's birth certificate wasn't real? Now think of the the implications of that are quite significant. But the issue is a birth certificate. You know, back off. What are you doing? You're terrible. And now publicly, that same individual, just a few short years later, is not only being identified by key people in the administration to be dealt with, but it's being dealt with in a comedic fashion, because this is part of the show. DJT knows how to pull all the strings to bring it together, and to have that AI video of Obama being arrested and then locked up is just phenomenal. And so just think psychologically where the nation is, that they were up in arms over this allegation of a false birth certificate, and now people are roaring with laughter at the possibility, because they know deep down it's true. Next point, we know that few, if any, national leaders on the planet actually have any power. They are literally puppets, and Derek was talking about puppet government. Just about every national leader is a puppet in place by somebody else. Occasionally you get somebody with a bit of an attitude, but they get recalibrated pretty quickly. And so we've got this issue of the perception. Now, was Barry Soeto's signature on the paper? Had to be, because they according to laws and regulations like everybody else, so he signed off on it. But we also know realistically that Barry couldn't find a beer in a brewery. That's how incompetent this guy is. He's just a puppet. Sign the paperwork. You are legally responsible. But we don't believe for a second he actually arranged it all. But the critical moment with this is the fact that it's coming out. It's coming out so brutally. It's coming out so directly, and coming out so humorously as the market. Now, this, to the people, not to the actual other players behind the scenes. And as I said, we'll talk about the movie in a minute. But the fact they're going so high so quick is exactly the way to play it, because then everything subsequent to this will be quite acceptable, rather than sort of creeping up on it slowly. They've gone for the big hit in the first round. They've floored the opponent when they're not even sure the opponent's going to get up. And any other comers are likely to face the same and worse treatment. They can move through that whole process quite quickly. So this is, for those who are waiting for a sign that something was actually going to happen, and they're tired of the, please, trust the plan, trust the plan, trust the plan. For all those people, this is the big market that says, if you weren't paying attention so far, and you should have been, from Derek Johnson's forensic analysis of the orders and regulations, through to the big tectonic movements across the political spectrum, both in the US and internationally, this is it. This is the moment where everyone should sit back and realize, yes, it's happening. This will give us a second win. We can now push forward. And let me just, before I hand over, let me just give some validation to what Tulsi Gabbard said in her statement about the whistleblowers are coming out of the woodwork. We've had exactly the same reports here in Australia about the Masonic filth and the secret societies here that run the country. They are abandoning their lodges like rats leaving a sinking ship. They know what's coming, and this is the senior people. They know what's coming, and they are abandoning ship in droves. They're leaving the useful idiots behind, who have no more idea what's going on. They have no clue, and so the useful idiots at the bottom that do all the heavy lifting, they're still turning up and doing their satanic prayers. But the leadership of the Masons, which are that group that effect the plans of those above them, they are actually running. They know what's coming. They're done. They know they are no longer getting direction from their previous masters, that maybe, just maybe the White Hats are now calling the shots. They're running and terrified, and they are squealing on their mates. And surprisingly enough, many at that highest level are actually relieved on one level. Because let me just throw a little picture into how this actually works very briefly. Let me paint a picture for you. There's a large mansion, and this is true. This is not a story. This is real. Large mansion, large sandstone blocks. You can imagine it. 18th century furniture. Well appointed with art and the signs of wealth. Let's say extreme wealth. And the wife is there. She's sitting at home and she's reading a book. And all of a sudden, half a dozen heavy-set men break in and brutally rape her. Now, this is not the first time it's happened, nor will it be the last time. Husband comes home sometime later. He has half a dozen security guards around him, races in, and they immediately start providing medical assistance to the wife. This is the life of a high-level Mason who just does what they're told, and they do what they're told. They effect these orders because they know that this is what will continue to happen if they don't. And so they just wave off, they sign off, they authorize the use of military aircraft and ships. They authorize lots of things within their power because that signature is necessary, just like Barry Soeto's signature was necessary, and he's going to be held to account. He signed off on it. And that's why that's happening. So when Tulsi Gabbard says the whistleblowers are coming out, and here they are for their own lives. They don't care anymore. Yes, they're going to face the death penalty. This cannot continue. But their wives, their families have been brutally raped and beaten for years, and they just sit there and do what they're told. Otherwise, it'll continue. That's the life that these people live. That's why they are running. They're not telling the truth because they've discovered they've done wrong. Not by a long shot. They're now coming out and telling the truth, just hopefully to stop this awful life that they've been living for the longest possible time. So I just had to throw that little bit of that reality check to what's going on behind the scenes, so people realize this is a brutal game. A lot of people have been very badly hurt. So there you go. That's my take.
Well, thank you, sir. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective that I'm first hearing to that level of the whistleblowers and that analysis on that. And also, it's very encouraging to hear of what you opened up with, what's happening in Australia as the rats are running for the hills. And that's very encouraging in your country. We're going to take the same question to the rest of the panel. Lieutenant Colonel Lennox, do you care to weigh in on, we're talking basically about Barack Obama and the thrust of our offensive moves in revealing and soon action. How would you like to weigh in on this?
I'm going to say the panel has probably known Obama's birth certificate was phony, that he was born in Kenya, that his mother was a CIA asset. His grandmother was a big-time CIA asset. And there are rumors that his mother was actually a granddaughter of Hitler. Those are rumors, but it's probably pretty accurate. And so we look at Obama and we see a phony put in place. There's no record of him at Columbia University. The only records they have show that he registered as a foreign student. He went to a private school in Hawaii that cost like $50 million a year, or some exorbitant number. And so he was groomed. He was groomed to become the president of the United States, set up by the CIA. He's a CIA asset. And Trump said that he was not an American 20 years ago. Yeah, probably 20 years ago. And people just poo-pawed it. Now, those same people are going to have a hard time when he gets arrested. They're not going to be able to deal with it. And they're really not going to be able to deal with when they find out everybody he killed. The numbers are huge. Hillary Clinton killed 149 people. How many did Obama kill? I don't think we know yet. But there are numerous clones of Obama floating around. Clones, actors, CGIs, you name it, they're there. And so they're having trouble finding him. He got on 2 planes the other day, both private planes. One went to Guatemala, one went, I can't remember where the other one went, but those were not Obama. They were actors or clones or whatever you want to call them. Anyway, that's my thing.
Well, thank you, sir. You initially launched into all the things that don't add up about Barry Soetoro, Barack Hussein Obama, and it makes all the sense in the world. He is the Manchurian candidate. And you alluded to some of these people that went out against Trump's assertions 20 years ago. They'll become part of the CEC I mentioned in my monologue, the crow-eating clan. There's going to be a lot of people in this expanding group. I have a serious follow-up question to both Lieutenant Colonel Riccardo Bosi and to you, sir, and then we'll take the BHO dialogue to the rest of the panel. But before we do, there's some follow-up stuff because I think it's important. With what we're doing now, the rapid revealing and offensive moves against BHO and the deep state. The resistance from the deep state is what I'm getting at. Let me lump this together. We'll go to Riccardo, then we'll go to you, sir, Lieutenant Colonel Lennox. What is the threat level? What is your threat level of concern, if you will, about the resistance that may be coming our way now that we're getting so close to checkmate? I mean, you know, we're there. FISA, Obama, the clowns in the FBI, and so forth. Yeah, that's basically my question, Riccardo, sir. If you would take that on, your concern of the threat level, and then how would that be handled? And then we'll take that question, Lieutenant Colonel Lennox.
Yeah, the threat level in response to these revelations and allegations is near zero. Not exactly zero, but near zero. This war's already been won. What's left behind are a few remnants, a few useful idiots at the bottom who have no clue what's going on, and you might get some crazy operating independently because he's still drinking the Kool-Aid and believes the story. But in reality, what we're about to see is the final act of the play, where all the actors that we watched for the first 4 acts have been doing their nefarious deeds are all going to be frog-marched onto the stage and be dealt with. Now, there are large problems to follow without it, but intellectual, if we narrow the question down from the current actors that are going to be held to account, that's near zero.
Well, thank you. I can't wait till we get to the final question later on the movie, because it seems to be coming up all along the way, which is fantastic. Thank you. Lieutenant Lennox, do you care to weigh in on the threat level concern that you may or may not have?
Yeah, I think there was an attempt to have a threat level, but if you notice what Trump did in Los Angeles and is doing in Los Angeles, all the rest of the people are looking and saying, he told them to kill us. I'm getting paid $100 a day, but if I spit in the face of a guy, he's going to be allowed to shoot me. That does not make you feel very comfortable,
Well
to
said.
say the least.
Absolutely. Last thing, and I'll run all these questions by the rest of the panel in just a moment, but it's pertinent to kind of cap this question off to both colonels. We'll go back to Riccardo Bosi and then Lieutenant Colonel Lennox. Okay, so we're making the moves. These will lead, and maybe already have, we'll come to that later, to indictments, arrests, sentencing, maybe executions, and so forth. What determines, if there's a protocol for this, what determines who's going to be, because there's a lot of people. I mean, it's 900,000, I think. I used to be 500. I was told 900,000 sealed indictments right now. So there's a lot of people out there. What determines who gets processed in civilian system and who gets processed in the JAGs, the tribunals, and those investigations that are happening in multiple places that Derek has educated us on? Civilian versus military. Who determines that? How does that play out? Because a lot of the American people, or anybody around the world who's half awake, doesn't have a whole lot of confidence within the civilian system right now, although that may be changing because we have newly posted people there that are actually doing their job. But my question to you is that civilian versus military, who determines who gets processed where?
I'll start. If it's treason, it's automatically military. They changed the, my brain's not, they changed the rules on the military justice system. And when they did that, when the Supreme Court said that the military justice people are in charge, if it's treason and 2 or 3 other things like crimes against humanity, then the military is going to do it. And a military justice system is very simple. It's going to take them half a day. Once they show them the evidence, they're going to have a panel. The panel's going to say guilty, and they're going to hang them. And if it's treason, it's automatic hanging offense. So there is no option. It doesn't go to the civilian court. That's why all those who've been arrested have gone to one of 4 or 5 places, because there are 5, I think there's 5 sites. Greenland, Diego Garcia, south of South America, Gitmo, and I can't remember the other one. But that's where they're all going. All the arrests are going there, to include the foreign arrests. They're not going to civilian courts, because the civilian court can last forever. And
Yes.
we don't have time for that.
Thank you very much. And it was the music to my ears answer that I was hoping to hear. And this should calm a lot of the nerves across the world. Riccardo, do you care to weigh in before we move over to Michael? Jaco?
No, please move on to Michael.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Thanks for your patience, and to the rest of the panel. You know the subject at hand, Barack Obama, the thrust we're moving forward, and your concern of threat level. Take it away, Michael, please.
So Barack Obama was, like the other gentlemen have said, he was basically conditioned. He was chosen. There's a lot of people that are chosen, but he's the one that broke out. And this has been seen by Andrew Machado, I believe his name was, in time travel. He's a time traveler, and he saw that Barack Obama was going to be president at one point. And this was long before Barack Obama was president. He actually met him when he was still a young man, before he was a senator in Illinois and all that stuff. So all of this stuff is planned out on a bigger picture. We're seeing it unwind. We have to get ahead of a lot of stuff, I think, that's coming. Now, the coming down on the people that have been, that are guilty. I think a lot of those people have been removed, and there's a lot of actors out there. We saw very obviously with Joe Biden, but there was so many more that were already taken care of. So, like I said, this is a bigger picture that's ongoing. Now, we talked about how supposedly Barack Obama's mother, which was not his mother, she was given Barack Obama for this one big thing that was coming, and that was to take over America. And that's obviously falling on its face. And as we move forward, a lot of these people are going to be exposed, and more of this stuff is going to come forward. So we talked about Jeffrey Epstein, sex trafficking and all that kind of stuff. So Barack Obama's mother was part of that. So you're starting to see the interweaving of all of these different things, and how this deep state has put this together. So imagine Barack Obama is like, yeah, maybe a 1-star general, maybe, but who groomed him? Who put him in? Who decided he was going to be in power? So there's obviously far greater, fish to fry here. But in the meantime, exposing all this stuff is just going to be, like the shutdown. I think we're going to have that shutdown where we have, problems in cities and so forth. I think that's going to come out. That's my take on that. They brought in a lot of people. I was in combat zones, throughout the Middle East. ISIS was basically formed by the deep state. I knew all the people that needed to go away. And I saw all the people that were helping other people stay in power. So taking those people out is a process, and that process is speeding ahead at warp speed, right? It's just fantastic. For those of us here, we can see that process before everybody else can, because we've been involved in this for a very long time, and we have that kind of insight. Now, most people, we have to help them see all these things, but these things are unwinding for the entire deep state. And then the people that have put this deep state apparatus together for millennia. So this is not something new, but the destruction of this deep state apparatus, it could take another 10 years or more. That's my view on this. We're probably going to see a lot of things happen over the next year or two. Barack Obama, is he going to be arrested on his birthday, which is August 4th? That's the way these things work out. Some paybacks are coming. They like to manipulate times and so forth to make themselves look like gods. But the real God and the people that are, in charge of taking all this down are really coming to bear on these people. And it's not, I think it's going to happen very quickly, but we'll still have a lot of time to round these people up. It's just beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, I don't know what. Listen, this is a very, very important panel, and looks like they tried to pierce us. Perhaps, perhaps not. But we're back, Michael. Two quick things I want to mention as a follow-up to what you've just shared with us. First off, thank you. You have incredible experience in your 34 years of service. So when you speak, people need to listen. And Mike, you talked about two things I want to comment on. 10 years is a long time. But of course, if I read you correctly, and I agree, 10 years going to take a long time to restore this constitutional republic and to clean out all the swamp. But we are, because I want to calm the nerves of the people, we're about to take down some pretty big fish right now, and things have shifted. Would you concur? I just want to make sure I got that. Yes?
Yeah, the big fish are going down. I don't know if you caught that. I said I think that maybe we'll see Barack Obama arrested within the next few days, maybe on his birthday, which is August 4th. But regardless, his days are numbered, or whoever is playing him, those days are numbered. But this is exposing him, and you're going to see somebody else get exposed, in a bigger picture, and a bigger picture, and a bigger picture as we move forward.
Thank you. One last thing before we go to Derek and Josh Reid. You use the word shutdown in certain cities. Would that be synonymous with martial law? And would that be situational, only pertinent to certain areas for a certain period of time versus a complete martial law lockdown of the country? Not that you've got a crystal ball, but in your estimation, what were you referring to when you said shutdown?
Yeah, I was referring to, military activity, going after, these people that have come into our country and are going to probably cause a lot of violence. There'll be repercussions. There has always been repercussions. We've seen, weather warfare against us. I think they are getting ready to do earthquake warfare against us. So we have a lot more going forward. Some of it, I think, has been, stopped out to a certain extent. I thought by now we'd have a lot more. So it seems like things are being eased back. So that's a good sign. But the people that have come here that are, going to be part of a bigger picture problem, we could see, I think days of lockdown, silence, 10 days. And most of that could be for our military personnel, so they can take action. So you shut down the communications for the bad guys. I hope it doesn't happen. Maybe it'll be a lesser time frame, but if and when it does happen, there'll be broadcasts like we've talked about, probably quantum broadcast, a new system I believe is about ready to come online. That'll be above the one that we have now. So yeah, lots of problems going forward. I think over the next several months, maybe a year or so into spring, but we could see this get turned around. Taking away their money has been a very problematical for them, because they don't have the money to buy and whatever, the people that they have been able to do these wars, like in the Middle East, ISIS, to name. Look at when Trump came in last time. He destroyed ISIS so fast. So we could see a very rapid destruction of ISIS type or whatever here in America, because we know they like to build these armies outside of armies and start to integrate, terrorists and so forth into a army system. If you had a terrorist group within several cities, multiple cities, 100 cities, just 5 to 10 people, you could devastate a city. I think about my capability, and guys, they're already out there, because we've talked about how people have been systematically murdered. The Clinton death list, JFK death list. These are people that are very, very highly trained. And if they get unleashed on us, along with all these other people that have slipped into the United States or other countries, Europe, so forth, you're going to see a lot of devastation. So I believe that's coming. Whether it does or not, it remains to be seen. I hope it doesn't. I pray that it doesn't. But I think we need to be prepared for it.
Words of wisdom. Thank you, Michael. We'll move over to Derek Johnson. We're talking, of course, about Barack Obama and the onslaught of our moves right now and related issues. How do you care to weigh in, Derek?
Well, one, I just for a joke here with all my brothers here, I wish I'd have had my time one-on-one with Obama where I could have ranked higher to not have to wait so long to open my bid trap. Right? Yeah. Look at them. The
Sorry, these were your rules. These were your rules.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I look at it from this angle. I mean, you got to go back to one. Obama as a senator missed the most amount of days that you can miss as a senator and still keep your seat. So that shows you right there. That's like voting for a class president who never comes to class. Now, they may be smart and gifted, but then again, that's kind of ridiculous to me. So that alone can show people. And then also, this is for the American people. It's not for all of us here. I mean, this stuff's already been handled and taken care of as far as Obama and Hillary and Bill and all these other people. I was reading today in the Biden report again, just going through it. It's a big book, kind of like part 2 of mine. I mean, it's probably 600 pages. And John Kasich, that was running for president in 2000 and 2016, he was going to team up, quote unquote, with Biden at one point, and was also in talks of a small coup. But the real coup took place way back in 2016. That's when the whole Obama thing, and this has kind of been a delay in another way. And so like a puppet government and a government in exile, the laws show a continuity government's in place. All right, it's partial at this point, but when a continuity government's in place, you have most definitely full, firm facts, especially with the new sheriff in town, President Trump, that presidential emergency action documents were signed, which are executive orders, national emergencies, proclamations, and treaties. All right, that's the 4 components. So they're draft classified. But then you look at the actions that took place. So 2016, I can make an argument that the military was already in control at that point because of 2018, 2020, 2022, and 2024, the National Guard, the only time in history the National Guard have been called out for election, the polls. All right. It's also in Title 18. I think it's section 592 or 593, somewhere in there, that troops, soldiers, whatever you want to call them, we can't be at the polls in uniform. If you're there trying to influence someone's vote or whatever it may be, you can be charged for that. All right, so this is the first time in history. So that shows right there that there's a sheriff in town, there's an operation taking place. All this other stuff are for the people. You just saw President Trump release Comey's memos. All right, it talks about in there all the things that were going on. Also, COVID was a retaliation by the deep state. I went back and watched all the footage again of President Trump in 2020 when he was telling the orders, basically, and he was speaking from a military standpoint. He said, we've administered to the United States government and to the hospitals, to the governors, and to the boards of those hospitals. We've administered hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine. All right, he said the vaccines, and he mentioned Johnson & Johnson. The one time he mentioned Johnson & Johnson, he said are 14 and 16 months out. Well, what happened in between that 14 and 16 months? What did they do? Pharmaceuticals. Josh alluded to that a while ago, the pharmaceuticals, Big Pharma. Who hammered Big Pharma? President Trump. It was all his executive orders. All right, so why would quote unquote Joe leave that executive order open? Also, Southern Command, 22 joint partners, April the 1st, 2020, launched an all-out war on drug trafficking. Now, in the past, yeah, they had drug trafficking busts, they had all kinds of busts, things like that, but it was on a low level, and it was also to keep that little checks and balances that the swamp had created. President Trump, no way. This is a full-fledged war on all forms of trafficking, and then also the currency and all these other things. All right, so COVID was a retaliation by the deep state. January the 6th was a smaller retaliation, even though I believe that the military was already in control, which they were, but saying all things, they knew all things and what moves the deep state were going to move. So January 6th, the whole world, liberals have been hung on J6 like a rat on a glue pad. They just can't get over J6. But what they actually witnessed was Title III, Section 15 broken, and also multiple other Title 18s, which are federal laws of seditious acts to overthrow the government. Title 3, Section 15 is about the disposing of the votes. The first time in U.S. history, you witness 2 objections take place in the certification. All right, so you watched all these people linked to Obama. Now, Obama was already taken out. All this is already taken out. So Obama has been an actor. He wasn't pulling the strings behind the scenes. This has been a military occupation the whole time, but it's a chessboard, and it's for the American people. All right, but it's also, as a lot of these special operators here know, that's when you pull someone back, you got somebody, and you're offering them a deal. Now, they could still take a deal, but not get out of the death penalty. They could take a deal to say, hey, they could maybe spare someone else that didn't actually have something on their record, and they know it, but, they know that they're going to die. So there's a lot of variables that could come into place with giving plea deals and plea bargains and all those kind of things. But as alluded to, treason, crimes against humanity, automatic death penalty. All right. So all these things are taking place. There's been heavy activity to all of our locations, as Lieutenant Colonel Lennox was talking about, but also Christmas Island, the Atoll Islands. There's a lot of other places that have been opened up, a lot of heavy aircraft in and out of, in the middle of nowhere, the French Polynesian Islands, all different places. So there's some of that. Now, tying in Tulsi Gabbard, this ain't new. Tulsi Gabbard in 2022, they created a new date on all of these wars with Israel and also Ukraine. Therefore, who couldn't take credit for it? Anybody from the deep state or one of these low-level rats that were the surface somewhere along the way and say, oh, I'm still alive, I didn't do anything, but I work for so-and-so. No, there's new dates put into place. Immediately after the date put into place for Ukraine, just a couple weeks later, all throughout 2021, all you heard was there's no bioweapons labs in Ukraine. That's a conspiracy theory and all this other stuff. Then you had the Victoria Nuland, who worked for the Obama administration, and Biden as vice president. Biden took 7 trips in 7 months to Ukraine in 2014. There was a snap election in 2014, only 1 of 2 rounds. The same 2014 when Victoria Nuland, she said, F the EU, F-U-C-K the EU. You wouldn't want to be saying that. All right, all these things took place in 2014. Obama had 4 executive orders in 2014 with Ukraine, 3 in the month of August alone, where he declared an act of mercy. And it said unusual and extraordinary threat. What would be unusual and extraordinary about Ukraine? All right, so all these things took place, all right, that allowed this setup. All right, and Victoria Nuland over here in 2022 gets under congressional oath, and who questioned her? Marco Rubio. And he said, are there bioweapons labs in Ukraine? Yes, but we're afraid the Russians are going to get them. Well, they got them, all right, because that was what the soccer ball was, all right, because it was the 2004, it was President Bush, 2004 Department of Defense who was funding the biolabs in Ukraine. All right, whose children were working for Ukraine? Romney, Pelosi, Kerry, and Biden. And then you had Mitt Romney questioning Tulsi Gabbard and called her treasonous and called it a conspiracy theory and all these other things that she was saying. So see, this stuff's it's nothing new. And this is all playing out for the American people. It's not playing out for us. It's playing out for us, all right. But especially me. I served under Obama, and I got some stuff that is going to be vindication when this is all said and done that I'm going to come out with on Obama myself and some people that linked in. But, it's all vindication. It's all validation. And everybody's seeing the remnants of that. The American people are seeing that. Exactly what President Trump said. We have it all. We've caught them all. No one could have caught them but me.
Derek Johnson, we look forward to that announcement on Vindication date for you. And I know what you're alluding to, and not the subject, but the big picture. And we look forward to that. I also want to state later on, we'll direct everybody to each of our panels platforms so you can follow their work, because Derek Johnson does an incredible job. You do, Derek, on connecting the dots on past and current events that coincide with the PEDs, the executive orders, the laws and orders, and current events. Fantastic work. Thank you very much. 2 more quick comments. Like a rat on a glue pad. You're giving Congressman John Kennedy a run for his money with some of these lines, but we enjoy it very much. And lastly, Serious question. There was a song written by J.J. Cale many years ago, made popular by Eric Clapton, called "I Shot the Sheriff." You mentioned, of course, that there's a new sheriff in town, and that being Donald J. Trump. Do you have any concerns for his safety, as well as Cash, Bongino, Bondi, and Gabbard for what they're doing right now? Are they safeguarded by God and other manly measures? What's your concern, if any, for their safety right now? Derek.
Well, no,
Yes.
I mean, when you look at my Instagram, I have a photo of President Trump and I, and if you look at some of the comments, they'll say, "Oh, that's a double," and then you'll see stuff saying, "Oh, he paid him to take a photo with him." Well, so what I do to people is like Jaco was saying earlier, is how you educate people and you bring people up to speed. I say, well, guess what you just did? You just alluded that there's two President Trumps. All right, so instead of getting mad at them and all the other stuff, I go back to your new saying you're going to know. I hang them like a rat on a glue pad and say, well, you just trapped yourself. You just admitted there's two President Trumps because you see one on TV that don't look like the one I'm with. So why would they put the guy that I'm with at the private golf course? That was Trump International, the private golf course. That's not a public anything. And the guy that I'm in a photo with is only been seen at private golf courses, Trump Tower, and also Mar-a-Lago. All right. So the guy that the commander in chief, I can't even call him Trump. I mean, that's how much I can't do that. Now, these other guys with higher rank, they can do that. But to me, the commander in chief, President Donald John Trump, that real president, he is in safe hands. That's also why I'm so glad all of this is finally getting to the place of the revelation for people, is because, even people try to pin General Flynn and I against each other because he's a general and I'm not. And there's good reasons to have doubles as well. It's not always a bad thing. But it's kind of like Jaco was alluded to a while ago. It's like, it's kind of like it's good when it's good and bad when it's bad. Well, guerrilla warfare can work either way. It depends on who's in control of it. And JFK and a few others have said this before. And President Trump said this about AI even. He said, as long as we're in control of it, we're going to be okay. Because the good guys are the good guys. So President Trump's in good hands, and it's not with Allstate. It's people who look like Jaco when he actually has his shirt off.
And it's not with Allstate. Right over to Jaco and his shirt off. There you go, Derek Johnson. Good humor and great intel and great analysis. Josh Reid, thanks for your patience. You know what we're talking about, focusing on Barack Obama, the moves we're making, and your levels of concern, if any, for the safety of these individuals. Take it away, Josh.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, where to start? So first arrest, I actually don't think it's going to be Obama, but I want to give a little history on Obama when we'll touch on that. I think the first arrest is going to actually be James Comey. For show. And the reason is because we know that James Comey was approached by Admiral Rogers on October 31st, 2016 with a audio transcript of the Bill Clinton, Loretta Lynch tarmac meeting that they acquired through the NSA. And that was the one reason why James Comey opened back up the Hillary Clinton email investigation just a week before the 2016 election. And then he shut it down 2 days before that election. But that means that James Comey was fearful because of that information and caved under pressure, which means that bringing Comey under the radar first and in first is going to get names, people, dates. It's going to get him talking because he doesn't want to lose his life, and he's the one person that can integrate it all together. The next person after that I would actually see being arrested would be Jake Sullivan. We can go really in depth on Jake Sullivan and his connections from the Obama administration. He's basically a deep state intelligence handler of all these people. He's been associated with Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton's chief of staff. He was the national security advisor to Joe Biden as vice president and as president. And he's integrated in every single scandal in the Obama administration in place. What I mean by that is Benghazi, he was there. Ukraine, he was there. So this man is one person that's integrated deep in that, and that would be Brennan, and then all those roads would lead to Obama. And I think that when Obama comes out, it's going to be looked at as capital punishment. And I think that the reason we're going to do that is when we start to look at the treason, there's two types of treason. There's treason through, I think it's 18 USC, and then there's the UCMJ treason. But When we get to Obama as being commander-in-chief, this is going to fall under the U.S. UCMJ because they corroborated with foreign adversaries. I don't know how important to make that. They corroborated with foreign intelligence as well as foreign adversaries, which would be China, specifically in 2020. So this would be definitely tried, I see, as a tribunal. I just wrote a whole article on that on my Substack. Now, going down the road of Obama, 100% a Manchurian candidate. You know, the Analysis Corporation, TAC, if people don't remember this is John Brennan's intelligence company that he had from 2008 on forth. Early 2008, before the election, members of the Analysis Corporation broke into the Federal Records building and stole Barack Obama's passport and changed certain records in Barack Obama's passport. Now, soon after this, the man was arrested who worked for the Analysis Corporation and then was shot and killed in his car, and it was said to be a suicide. Well, that was John Brennan's company. Now, what records were changed in Barack Obama's passport? The fact that in the 1980s, he traveled and stayed in Pakistan at the same time that Brennan was CIA director in the Southeast Asia area and operating in the Pakistan region. So there's correlation and direct corroboration right there between Brennan and Obama during this time frame. In the 1990s, Barack Obama was trained by Hollywood actor Harry Lennox on how to be an actor. Harry Lennox has actually came out and said that Barack Obama shadowed him for 2 years to learn how to talk and give speeches. He said when Barack Obama first met him, the guy didn't know how to talk right, didn't know how to capture people's minds. And after working with Henry Lennox, he absolutely did. You go to his Senate campaign, 2008. You have to know that they had to redistrict that whole area in Chicago to get Barack Obama elected into the Senate. And what they did is they took the rich district in Chicago and they included all the poor black neighborhoods. And it was the Pritzker family that actually paid for the Barack Obama Senate campaign and helped to change the state laws for redistricting to get him elected. And immediately when he got elected senator, they redistricted back to the original place to where the poor people were once again excluded. And like Derek was saying, he wasn't there very much. He didn't do very much as a senator. He was actually a very lowly senator. To comment on what Derek did say about the drug trade and the South Pac, I was actually my first 5 years in the United States Navy. I was on board a ship, and that's what we did. We did Southern Pacific deployments. We did counter-narcotics interdiction. Michael's probably very familiar with this. I was a member of the VBSS team working directly with the leadet. We went and boarded these ships, got the drugs and narcotics off of them, and then what would happen, we would pull into port. You'd have the DEA and CIA pull in with semi-trucks. They would load up the cocaine and take it right back to Colombia. So to confirm what Derek was saying, he was absolutely right. It was nothing but a farce. It was nothing but an exploitation of taxpayer money on that behalf. I'll regress from there. There's so much more, but we don't have time. And I do have to pop out in 5 minutes. I have my own show that I have to jump on. But it's been a pleasure with all of you guys. Appreciate it.
Josh, thank you very much. If you got 5 more minutes, what I'd like to do is start with you and go reverse on the panel with this question, because it's an area that I know you are well versed in. We are at war, an economic war as well, and it's always about power, money, and control. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution enumerates Congress's powers, the powers regarding currency, including that Congress shall have the power to issue and control and regulate the value of our currency thereof, it fixed in weights and measures because of the weight of gold and silver at the time. Our money, pre the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, was backed by gold and silver, and only Congress had the power to issue the amount of currency equal to that amount of gold and silver to back it. Fiat currency, government decree, became the rule with the passing of the Federal Reserve Act, something one might aptly call the Great American Coup of 1913. Then, of course, Nixon took us off the gold standard, and it's been nothing but currency debasement and parabolic inflation thanks to the Fed, which is coming to an end soon. Fast forward today, President Trump has denounced, here we go, Josh, he has denounced a central bank digital currency, but is supportive of cryptocurrency. There's talk of XRP, XLM, and the quantum financial system and the Genius Act. That's a lot with only 5 minutes to go. Take it away, Josh, and then exit. We appreciate you're here, and then we'll take that question around in reverse on the panel. Go ahead, Josh, please.
So yeah, Donald Trump systematically, and so there's one part of that last part that we were just talking about. There's three portions, and is there a threat? I do agree with Michael that we are moving into what I call the firestorm. Michael and actually we were on a panel a few weeks ago talking exactly about this. I mean, you have Hezbollah Unit 910, you have all these other organizations already in the United States. What we have to remember is that we have these actors on the global stage that are these leaders, the deep state, Obama, all these people, Joe Biden. But behind them is a hidden hand. There's the deep state intelligence apparatus. This is NGOs. This is think tanks. You have the old guard financial infrastructure, the banks of London, and all of the old Khazarian infrastructure that is spread throughout the world. And then you have the international crime syndicate. This is the gangs and the cartels and the private armies that run all of the illicit crimes throughout all of these major Western countries. You know, that system has to be taken down systematically. And that's what we are watching, the systematic destruction of this old guard system. But behind that is something much, much greater. And that is what I would call the hidden hand or the watchers. And that's where Michael, I know, gets into this. I get into this, that there's something esoteric and biblical behind all of this, that there is something much, much deeper that is an enemy that is trying to be defeated here. So we have to understand that we're not out of the woods yet. Now, on the financial system, at the same time, you have to defund all of this system. You have to rise up a new parallel system in its place, and that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing since he came in on January 20th, 2025. He has been rising up a new system to merge quantum technology, artificial intelligence, and blockchain into a new quantum financial infrastructure. We've seen the whole placemat being laid for this, the trade negotiations and deals that he's bringing about, the $13.5 trillion of investment capital, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, you have UAE, that's $10 trillion there over the next 10 years. You have $3.5 trillion from SoftBank and other corporations being invested in U.S. infrastructure, primarily those three components, AI, quantum computing, and blockchain. You have gold rehypothecation, which we heard is happening right now. If people don't know what that is the U.S. loans out 1,000 tons of gold to another country. That country takes the 1,000 tons of gold, they put it on their balance sheet. Now they loan out 1,000 tons of gold. That country holds it on their balance sheet. They loan out 1,000 tons of gold. They hold it on their balance sheet. Now you have 5,000 tons of gold, but there's actually only 1,000 tons of actual gold. Gold rehypothecation means we're calling all that back into the United States of America. And everybody has to rebalance their balance sheets, which is going to cause the gold price, as we've seen, to begin skyrocketing. Various different parts and components to this. You have the Clarity Act, the Genius Act, and the Stablecoin Bill Act that all just came out. The end of central bank digital currencies under the Bank of International Settlements 2022 report called the Unified Ledger Framework. They brought about a whole infrastructure for CBDCs and how it integrates into the global private market foundation, basically replacing the old SWIFT system. This has been systematically dismantled by the Trump administration by coming in and just saying, not happening. We're going to use privatized stable coins. And the way that this works and to keep the free markets actually going kind of under the 10th Amendment and keeping it competitive is we have to understand that these are private companies, but any company can come up and introduce a stable coin. And you'll see over the next 6 months that the Department of the Treasury is going to issue a 50-year gold bond, a 30-year gold bond, and a 20-year gold bond, as well as Bitcoin bonds, 20, 30, and 50 year, that are redeemable in those currencies in 50, 20, and 30 years, that these stable coin companies are going to buy, and then they're going to mint new stable coin currency, which is going to be brought about as legitimate currency, changing House Joint Resolution from 1933-129, which basically brought the Federal Reserve note in as the standardized currency. So we're going to see that transition over the next year. This is phase 3 of Donald Trump's plan. It's bringing the integration of this new financial system in place. There's much more to it than that. So if anybody wants more info, we can do a show together on that, John, or anybody here or the audience. If they want more info, they can go to my Substack. But it's coming. It's coming fast. And the Federal Reserve right now is being systematically dismantled. Central banks are being completely shut out. Donald Trump's tariffs, that was the war against the central bankers. If you understand international finance and you understand how trade operates, you have $1 billion of oil leaving Saudi Arabia coming to the United States of America. That company's got to pay for that oil to come to the United States, get on trains and tractor trailers, get shipped across the country to a refining plant. From the refining plant, shipped out the tractor trailers to gas stations, and they don't get paid till it gets pumped in your car. So where do they get the $1 billion? Well, they borrow it from the large financial institutions, which are regulated by the central banks. And the central banks are loaning them the capitalization to loan to these businesses. So when Donald Trump comes out there and creates it's a complete tariff war. What he actually did was kill the central banks around the world. He startled their whole monopoly to the point where these countries have to come in and start renegotiating these deals, which screws up everything that the central banks had put in place, allowing China and various other countries like that to rise up with subsidies. That's no longer the case. Now everybody's on an equal playing field. And so we're going to see the ramifications over this over the next 6 to 12 months with the rise of this new financial system. And you're going to see the old financial system, the fiat system, crash and burn. But in the midst of it, you're going to see the new financial system rise up.
Thank you, Josh. Just a quick announcement before you step out. Josh Reid will be my co-host on a new show we're launching the beginning of August. It'll be live across all the platforms that will accept us live. And the title of the show is Global Financial Reset Weekly, because it's a silent war that needs to be heard. And Josh, as you can see, is on the pulse of these truths and these transitions. And do me a favor, keep the coffee pot away from Josh Reid. Just kidding, sir. Thank you very much.
You told me 5 minutes. I had to get it all in 5 minutes. Cool, gentlemen.
No,
Thank
understood.
you much.
Thank you, Josh, for being here.
Take care, everybody. Good night.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. We're going to go to Derek Johnson. We'll go reverse on this. I'm violating rank protocol for a moment. But I do want to run this video clip first and then have the panel weigh in on the CBDC, the XRP XLM, this transition that Josh just spoke about into a digitalized crypto currency of sorts, and how this may play out. We're going to jump into this. But before we do, let's listen to Marjorie Taylor Greene with Steve Bannon. To our producer, if you can pull that video up. Hopefully she's still with me. Okay, well, Sandy, you're with me as well. Get you to put that video out. And meanwhile, we'll go to Derek Johnson. So Derek, can you, and I realize our panel, this is a highly specialized area that may not necessarily been a part of your incredible intelligence and military experience. So care to weigh in any way, an entry point that you choose to on these subjects. We'll go to Derek Johnson and to Sandy and Jess. When that video comes in, don't interrupt the guest, but let's interrupt me and get it played. Go ahead, Derek, please.
Well, I had the privilege and honor to go through another system after the University of Alabama and get my master's degree of business, which I don't know if I've ever used it or not. Maybe I will one of these days. Maybe I'll put it to good use. But I remember sitting in class, and the first thing the first professor did in the very first class was hold up $1. And he held it up and he said, "What is this?" And he said, "No wrong answers, but raise your hand." And one of my buddies, who happened to have been on the good side of Wells Fargo, even though it was during the time period they were being busted themselves, he had the best answer. He said, "Control," right? So it's control. All right. I mean, I make jokes, I bring humor to this, but like if we wanted to start a new barter down here, we could take all the pine cones in the South. Jaco knows a little something about that, and Lieutenant Colonel Lennox there, because of where we are all have been located before. We could start a new barter with pine cones alone. There's so many of them. All right, so we've always had a barter system. So when I try to teach just the people about what is going on the financial side, it's a very key thing. What did President Trump say first? Straight out the gate, and I want to also make sure we know with the CIA, I always take up for Jaco, because Jaco we've been on shows too, and we have people out there that just want to seem to lump everybody all in one. But the CIA, when President Trump first started hammering in 2017, the very first thing he did, he said, it's not everybody in the three-letter agencies, it's the senior level leadership in these, right? So you have the CIA and the senior level leadership. So I say that right out the gate. The very first thing President Trump said was follow the money. Follow the money. Even in his debates, all those Republicans on the stage, when he went after Jeb Bush and all the people, he shushed him and the crowd started booing. He said, there's all his donors out there right now. And he goes, it's true. It's true. He said, we talked to the Republican National, and he was like, they said all the seats were taken by donors, which are lobbyists. All right, so lobbyists, money, that's why he went after the lobbyists and the defense contractors. All right, because all they do is make excuses to keep us in wars. He said that. So one of the things he did in 2019 was the Indo-Pacific Agreement, where he said every nation will be independent on their own. He didn't mean that we're going to leave them stranded, but when he talked about America first, he said we're not paying for anything anymore. We're not putting up with this BS and being freeloaded by NATO and all these other nations. All right, he's the one that got NATO to put in their equal share, and now they're up to about 5% GDP versus the 2%. So there's that. Also, what Josh was talking about, the system. So on the man side, the manpower side, when you take down a system, you got to have people who want to be a part of the new system, which requires systems, that requires tech guys, engineers, you name it. All these people have to be, but they have to be good people, and they have to do as they're told, and depending on, a tier system or a rank system, all the way up. And then you have to have quality assurance in there as well. You got to have all these checkpoints again of, hey, when you get here and something happens, or if it's money involved and it's a payoff, then you got to have the right people in there who won't be compromised and also lead another way. So it's like the Bible says, the lust of money is the root of all evil. It's not money, it's the lust of it. So there's a problem right out the gate that people. Yeah. So I like the little things, the tariffs. Tariffs are one thing that proves this whole thing's in operation. All right, not one single judge from 2021 to 2025 tried to block a tariff, all right, with quote unquote Joe. All right, it's also presidential authority, the Trade Act, the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, and the Trade Act of 74. It's a presidential authority for tariffs. All right, so quote unquote Joe didn't do anything from 21 to 2025. So there's that. And then one other thing that was really beautiful that President Trump did as an optic to everybody. All right, ended the debate with quote unquote Kamala, who was not real either. I won't make too many jokes about that right now because the lady folk might get mad at me making a joke about a lady. But she did look like a run over hag, but I'll leave it right there. All right, so on there, on that debate, she used two people, just two, as her examples of who was backing and supporting her. She used the School of Finance that President Trump went to, Wharton School of Finance. That's the silliest thing. Mm-hmm. And then Goldman Sachs. There's an article that was just put out just today that Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan are going to do what? Produce a stable coin. Well, that sounds like the deep state has been turned. Didn't President Trump turn Bezos? Didn't he turn Zuckerberg? Didn't he turn all these people? Tim Cook of Mobile, Alabama, where I was born. Tim Cook of Apple. All these people I just named, they donated to the inauguration. And now JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is a 380-something page report in 2008 that shows they were the key component of the financial crisis of 2008. They've been hit more by the SEC than anybody else. All right, so that's a big factor showing that table has turned and President Trump has decentralized all the central banks and then also the gold-backed digital currency. And he specified that over and over. It's not the same. All right, and that was where the media, now the media is under control too. We all know in a wartime, they're under 47 U.S. Code 606. But for the average people, they don't know that. So that's why President Trump was backing all this and saying, hey, don't listen to this crap. But yeah, we're going to see that over the next few months.
Wow. Thank you very much, Derek. A lot of great insights there as to the big picture of what's happened with these big players and institutions. It shows our viewers who, in fact, is in control. My producers queued up this video from Audrey Taylor Greene. We're going to run this clip. We'll go to Michael, Jaco, and the two colonels. Run the clip, please.
Never thought in your lifetime that the government would shut you down, would close your churches, would close your schools, would close your business. And that happened only a few years ago. But what is happening today is the groundwork is being laid, and it's all in the name of cryptocurrency and stablecoin. But it is the entire regulatory process to switch us from cash to a cashless society to digital currency that can be controlled by the federal government. And there will be no ban on a central bank digital currency. There will be no way to protect your ability to fully control your digital currency in the future. And I'm voting no to this today. I don't know if there'll be any other no votes on the Republican side. But I'm voting no to this because I'm a Christian and I've read the Bible and I believe what Revelations 13, 16 through 17 says. And I just cannot vote for a future system that will do that.
But it's okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And to our viewers, we are going to close out our panel with our fourth and final question in a moment about actors, the movie and central casting, Dead and Alive. But Michael, Jaco, let's have you weigh in. Again, these are highly specialized areas that we're focusing on. We're talking about the central bank digital currency, the XRP. Could it be that we may be taking a series of steps by backing our currency once again with gold and silver as it was initiated in the Constitution and perhaps other commodities en route to a digital crypto that both Josh and a bit that Derek had just talked about? Are we in a series of steps? And the Genesis Act, if you can comment on what that is. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, whom I've agreed with a lot of her support for the president in our country over these years and don't agree with some things. What's your take on what she just said and the subjects that we're discussing? And we'll take it to the colonels. Go ahead, Michael, please.
Yeah, she's either ill-informed or she's just playing a part to just, push people in a certain direction. I don't know why that is. But it's definitely, not – the Federal Reserve is dead. So they're not going to get a digital currency. So this maybe she's like drawing attention to that so people will like look a little deeper. I don't know. But as far as like the money around the world, we're seeing that dry up for the deep state. The human trafficking that was coming across our border, drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, all the stuff that was coming across our border is being shut down to the point where they're now starting to move the Marines out of the border positions they were in, probably to move them to, I don't know, some other locations where they might be needed. We'll see. Now, President Trump is a world leader. He's looking at the bigger picture around the world. So not just the United States, but also coming after, the trafficking and so forth that's happening, in Ukraine. He's going after Ukraine. He's going after Europe. He's going after South Africa. There's all kinds of places where, he brought in the South African president. And while everybody was there, he brought up how they're, killing whites and stuff, and showing the crosses of how many whites have been killed down in South Africa. So the genocide they're doing down there. So there's lots of minerals down in Africa. China's been trying to come in and take advantage of that. Trump is pushing back on that, trying to bring attention to that. So he's a world leader and bringing in this digital currency that the Treasury, the United States Treasury, will basically run with Treasury notes and so forth, is going to be the thing that's going to really take down a lot of places around the world, because you won't be able to use currency like you do now and take over, because we know that currency is being used for warfare. Currency has been used for warfare for a very long time. If you don't have that currency, you don't have warfare. So that's what Trump is doing. He's moving around the world, shutting down this illicit use of currency. And the Federal Reserve, like we've talked about, back in 1913 when they came in, the dollar was like worth enough to buy a nice suit. Same thing with a gold. Now gold will still buy you a nice a suit, but the dollar, if you're lucky, you might get a decent tie, but not a good tie. But so it doesn't buy the things that it does. So that system is failing. It's failing everyone, not just America, but the world. It brings everybody under control. It allows them to do these wars and run these operations against different countries and basically take over countries. That's going away, and it's a brilliant move. And you don't have to like completely understand it, but just know that President Trump is working for all of us. And every time that I doubted him, and there haven't been many, he's proven to be right. So all I do now is like, okay, I don't understand this yet, and that's the way I was with the money and the digital currency stuff. I didn't understand it at first, but now that I've done the research and I've looked at a lot of different things, I'm completely on board with it. It's definitely going to be the best thing for America. I think that there will be a downturn, but it won't be as harsh and it won't be as severe if we were still using that 1913 dollar, right? That the central bankers, banksters have taken control of. So they run markets up and down. They make profit off of it. They would probably push us into another depression. I don't think it's going to happen. If it is, it's going to be very, very shallow, and we'll come out of it very quickly. But I think we're moving in the right direction.
Wow, that's great insights, Michael. I really it resonates with me quite a bit. The banksters, as we know, and what you're saying, basically, they fund both sides of every war and reap all the profits. You've laid a great case about how warfare will end by cutting off that dollar, and that's, I hate to even call it a byproduct of the evolution of currency, because it's more than a byproduct. It's big news. Thank you very much. The control, folks, is being taken away. That's exactly what we're talking about, from that system into the parallel system that Josh and Derek spoke about. We're going to move on to the Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox and Riccardo Bosi on the economy, and hopefully you guys can stick around for the movie Central Casting Dead and Alive, because I really want to pierce this and get something very definitive on the record about that subject, because it's considered total nonsense and conspiratorial to the average person, even within our movement. I understand why. So let's get there in a moment. But Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox, please weigh in, if you will, on the economic battle that we have been discussing and the transition that we're in the middle of.
Okay. I used to teach finance as a part-time job. I need people to understand that. And I have 2 master's degrees in finance and comptrollership. One of the things that I see is nobody really understands QFS, quantitative financial system. The quantitative financial system is not banking as normal, nor is it really a digital currency like XRP or XML. I did a seminar many years ago where a Department of Justice retired lawyer talked about the digital currencies and how they were used by the, I'll call them the bad guys. And one of the things that they used was very much similar to, what do I want to call it? To the one of the systems they talk about using in the QFS. My understanding of the QFS is it is nothing like anything we've ever seen before. And there are no systems being used in the QFS that were developed by any of the military industrial complex anywhere in the world. And if you look at the systems that are run for the military right now, they're all developed by the military industrial complex. And everybody screams, well, they can't audit DOD. They can't audit DOD because the system was created so it was not auditable. And I could spend hours talking about that, because I was a comptroller at one point. But there is a sufficient amount of gold in the world, a lot of which was taken out of the Vatican. Some $26 quadrillion worth of gold was taken out of the Vatican, that all the countries of the world will be trading on an equal basis in gold. And we will be operating in gold, silver, or platinum. I've listened to people talking about XRP, and I know that right now it may be the best of the bunch, but any of those systems have been developed by the wrong people. And that I could spend hours talking about this, but that's my comment.
Developed by the wrong people is a cliffhanger, sir. And I'd love to have you, if you can give us the time, to join us on this new show we're launching, The Global Financial Reset, Get Out of the System is the name of the show, with Josh Reid. I'd love to have you join us. I didn't know about these two masters and your incredible experience and expertise in this area, and I find it very intriguing. I think very educational, and that's what we need to get us grounded all through this transition, because every Tom, Dick, and Harry's out there talking about this, like the old shoe shine boy in the 1920s giving you a stock tip, you know? So that's why the
XRP and all this stuff. And I sit there and I say, and I'm listening to these guys and I'm saying, can't work if it was developed by IBM. Sorry. Can't work if it was developed by one of the big accounting firms, because I watched what they do and how they work. You know.
Yes.
And
our good friend 107. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry. Continue. They're only interested in selling their stuff, and your point is so well taken, and I hope you accept the invitation. Sandy will reach out to you and your team and see if you can join us on these focused weekly live broadcasts to discuss this subject. It's very important. As Derek alluded to, what did Trump say? Follow the money. Okay, so let's follow the money. Thank you, sir. And so we'll take the same subject over to Lieutenant Colonel Riccardo Bosi, who's been patiently waiting. Thank you, sir. Do you care to weigh in? Then I'm going to close out. If you gentlemen can stay with us on the actors, the movie, Who's Dead and Alive.
Yeah, thanks, John. It's been fascinating listening to the discussion. Just extraordinary, the expertise in the panel. Let me just firstly mention there's a billionaire, if you know the guy, has a fouler mouth than I do, an extraordinary man. And I remember one line he yelled down the camera: if you knew it was behind Bitcoin, you'd sell it immediately. And so that speaks to my concerns, certainly from a national perspective, the legit, my perspective. You back?
I'm sorry, Riccardo, you've been intermittent, but we are back. If you want to comb through that again, it would be appreciated.
Yeah, sure. No, there's a billionaire called Pena who has a fouler mouth than I do, and he yelled down the camera that if you knew who was behind Bitcoin, you'd sell everything immediately, which speaks volumes to the legitimacy and threat that crypto does. Now, I'm a libertarian. I have a libertarian streak a mile wide. You can do what you like with your money, but it must not at any point from a national leadership perspective threaten the economy of the country, because if it does that, we're going to get the same system now where corporations are more powerful than sovereign. Something that we cannot abide, nor can we allow the system to reestablish itself. And so, as I've said before, the definition of war and the conduct of war will change in this new world. It is no longer just men in sharp uniforms with rifles and bayonets. War comprises many approaches, as we have now seen. China has been preeminent. Particularly here in Australia, we have Chinese police patrolling streets. We have Chinese police stations with no legitimacy from our perspective, but from theirs, yes, because they own the country. So national a whole much broader issue. Now, having said all of that, in terms of sound money and the rest of it, again, it's always helpful to have the same context or prism through which we discuss these issues. Most think, for example, that we have a market economy on planet Earth. We don't. It's not a market economy at all. It's not quite a controlled economy either, but it's pretty close to that. It's a criminal economy where you've got these different entities, and we think nations, but they don't. Nations are just bits of land to them. They don't care. It's irrelevant. There's different entities contesting, like the mafia families who might have a man, but but do you think Bambino family cared who the
Points
mayor of New
continue
York
to
was?
be
Do
just
you think
as
they cared?
affordable.
Sorry? Have I dropped out, have I?
You're good. Something happened beyond my understanding. Continue speaking, sir.
Okay, so that's in New York. Do you think they was the mayor? Or they just pay the guy off and work? That's how the planet's been running. So when you look at anything at all in this discussion, you've got to look at the planet Earth not as a series of nation states that's having to pass laws that will guarantee the happiness of the people. just know. The moment you start from that perspective, you're blinding yourself. This is a criminal economy. It is a partially managed criminal economy. That's it. And once you realize that, you see the world completely differently. And so what DJT and Michael Jaco is exactly right. You've got to look at that global perspective. What's he doing? The US is US-centric, and that's as it should be. But we have to look at this in terms of its downstream effects globally. So what he's doing is a controlled demolition of every system on the planet. Now, we're talking finance, so let's just stick with money. All that. It's a controlled demolition of the system, because the system is rotten. The cabal has established an imperfect but functioning system. Functioning as it meets their needs, imperfect as it doesn't meet ours. So as I think Derek said, you just can't knock it down and then leave it like that. You've got to have a new system. You've got to have people in that system so there's a seamless transition. Now, we've seen that with the banks, with the shift from the Basel II to Basel III standards, and the banks that couldn't meet Basel III, they lost their remit to operate. The rest were scrambling to get their ducks in a row, so to speak. So they met the Basel III standards and could continue to do so. And we've had banks in Australia, you've had banks in the US, which have ceased to be. Now, that hasn't hit the public consciousness yet. We've had a major bank that evaporated, but well, as far as everyone's concerned, it's still operating fine. I don't care. That'll come out, if at all, when it needs to come out. But there's this global perspective we must take with this controlled demolition, like a game of Jenga. You know that tower of wooden blocks, and you pull the block out and you hope it doesn't tumble? That's basically what's going on. And so what DJT and the team have to do is make sure that as they pull the blocks out, the tower remains upright. Now, that's tough enough for the United States. But look at the rest of the planet, because this is this international trade, international finance, all of that's got to happen. Now, different segments of the planet are at different stages of development. So the Western Hemisphere, United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, let's say, the Western Hemisphere, we could move as a block. And I anticipate in the future we will be moving as a block on the planet, because that's where we are. You cannot expect the same rate of change, say in the MENA, Middle East and North Africa. You cannot expect the same rate of change in Southeast Asia. You cannot expect the same rate of change in certain Africa and South America. Everyone at a different stage of development. And so this transition must accommodate that. It's the overarching principles might be identical, but the operation on the ground is going to take time, simply because they don't have the expertise to do it. This is a tough gig. So this global perspective and this controlled demolition of every system, not just financial. So you can imagine now the complexity that we're talking about. The financial system, as you know, most people get lost immediately you start talking about it. But then on top of that, include every international system that exists. This controlled demolition replacement behind the new system that'll work. And the Colonel referred to the QFS, which is probably the clearest definition I've heard, because if somebody can't explain it to me like a 6-year-old, they don't understand it. And I go looking for a better explanation elsewhere. And so this controlled demolition key, and we've got to understand that as the US moves forward and can do so quite comfortably, and Jaco was right, Michael was right, the world leader, he is looking at the entire planet to make sure this whole transition takes place as seamlessly as possible with minimal downtime. The net ill effects of this transition have to be minimized, absolutely. It won't be zero, it never is, but it's important that we all, when we look at this issue, it's not just a matter of, is my XRP going to make me a trillionaire? You know, are my silver holdings going to create generational wealth? Well, you can do that, and that's a good thing for individuals to do. But once again, when we're standing at this perspective, It's got to be a global perspective. The whole planet's got to come along with us at the rate that they can manage. If you want to examine how that doesn't, how many small dummies have been built around the use? Let me tell you can count it on one hand with no fingers. It just doesn't work because they just can't do it. So that sort of nonsense has to change. That arrogance has to be removed. And we know it wasn't belief. It was war for the sake of war. We know it. Nobody ever genuinely wanted to create a democratic system in Afghanistan. Nothing to do with it. Never going to happen. But now we have to have this separate view. DJT has to have a separate view. Otherwise, again, all we do is create the preconditions for replicating the current mess we have, which I am sure that nobody wants at all. And just one last one, even with Europe, in terms of the complexity of moving forward, Europe is a remarkably complex little setup. You've got the EU, so there's a political connection between some nations. Then you've got NATO, which is the military connection, but not all the same member nations of EU are in NATO. So they're separate. There's a little division there. And then you've got the Schengen group. The Schengen group can be neither NATO nor EU, but they have no borders because they like people traveling across the borders without checks. And there's one more. What's the last one? And the Eurozone. You've got countries that use the euro, but might not be part of NATO, might not be part of the Schengen group, and might not be part of it. And so now imagine trying to convince the nations of Europe, and there's only hundreds of years of conflict between all those neighbours, trying to drag these people into the same world. And so the complexity scale and depth of this problem, now you begin to see it. This is DJT's perspective. This is not somebody managing their own superannuation fund, their retirement fund. And when you look at that perspective, you look at it from the global perspective, you look at the issues being faced with this criminal, up to hitherto criminal managed economy, you can see that statements about digital currencies are interesting, but I won't say unimportant, because a central bank digital currency is a terrible thing if it's misused, like everything, double-edged sword. But the discussion must be elevated to a point where people can sit back and realize, okay, the implications are quite profound. This requires, and you're having this roundtable, because I'll be watching, sure, see how it plays out. But this is where people have to be informed and can't afford to make rash judgments on issues of which they haven't got a good grasp. Anyway, I hope that added something to the discussion.
Absolutely. Just let me weigh in for one moment. There's so much you just unloaded, Riccardo, that is so valuable. First, I want to go back to what I mentioned in the monologue. It's time for all of us to whittle down our sources of content in the overflowed podcaster world, who's got value and who doesn't, as well as the mainstream media, as we heard from Marjorie Taylor Greene a moment ago, with some perhaps speculation as to what she's actually saying. These type of panels, people with military intelligence, master's degrees and so forth, combat experience, we've got to focus and get to as close to the truth and high level accurate analysis. And you're getting that on this broadcast. And I thank these gentlemen very, very much. One other quick comment, sound bites from Riccardo: controlled demolition of the criminal economy. That is powerful language and exactly what is going on. And to go back to Tom Lennox, Colonel stated about what's really behind these cryptos. And I'll invoke our good friend Juan O'Savin, who's not part of our panel, who I speak with regularly and monthly on a show. He's told us way back when that crypto itself was a black hat operation. And if Hillary had gotten in, they would have wiped us all down. So, great minds think alike. I'd like to close out the broadcast, and I'm glad you guys are still here with us. And we'll go from Riccardo through Tom, through Michael into Derek, and we'll wrap up the broadcast. Let me set it up for us if we can. Okay, by now, we're all too familiar with the term, we're watching a movie. It's just a show. And a lot of people in our movement don't buy into that at all because they don't understand it. Some people buy into it extreme end where like everybody's dead, you know? So you are watching a movie with CGI, masks, central casting, and that many individuals have already been tried in military tribunals and some already perhaps executed, and that we are seeing, let's say, what we're seeing is central casting actors, doubles, and so forth, just invented characters with masks, actors, such as in Hillary, Obama, certainly Joe Biden, and scores of others. So while I get this is a controversial and some might say nothing more than conspiracy, I believe there is some mounting evidence that this may be true on some individuals and at many levels. So let's go there. Let's get your analysis on why, on the record here to help people come to their own conclusions. So I'm asking of our viewers, whether you're on the extreme side where like everyone's dead, including Adam Sandler, and you want to come on the other side that says it's none of it's true. How can there be different timelines? What's going on here? I ask you to be a sponge and listen to our esteemed panel's analysis on this. And I ask our panel, within your comfort zone, being responsible as you choose to be, hold nothing back. So let's get into this because it's something that is hard for people to grasp, but yet is the whole story. So we'll go there with Lieutenant Colonel Riccardo Bosi. Weigh in, if you will, please, sir, on the movie and the actors and who's dead and who's alive.
Sure. Just set the context. As the guys liberate the concentration and labor camps in Germany, they found the prisoners, once they were liberated and the gates were flung open, there were large numbers that remained inside. They had been so traumatized and so demoralized that even though they were free, they didn't know what to do. In fact, some groups were so poorly fed that if the Allies had given them full meals, they'd have died within 24 hours because their digestive tracts could no longer deal with just a normal meal. And so they had to be literally and metaphorically spoon-fed to the point where they could actually start taking charge of their lives again and walk out the gates and head off home, because they would just literally stand in there with the Allied soldiers around them, staring blankly at them. Now, it's a gruesome picture, but an apt metaphor for the population of the planet, where we have been demoralized into, time you think is realistic, centuries, millennia, hundreds of millennia. Doesn't matter. The fact is that we've been brainwashed, we've been MK Ultra, pick whatever words you want to, where great swathes of the population, despite the best efforts of people like the ones around this table, they just cannot get the message into their head. And in large measure, it's not their fault, because they've just been so smashed physically, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and spiritually. So that's the problem that the white hats faced. And ripping off the Band-Aid is the metaphor we heard, but the reality was they just couldn't handle it. They swung the gates open of the labor camps, and these poor prisoners that have been prisoners for years just stood there and waited for orders. They literally just waited for orders. Go and do this. Go and have your meal. Go and sleep now. And so that's that is a metaphor for where we are. So that sets the scene why there is a movie. Why is there a movie? Because the people couldn't, it would be psychologically. Like chaos would ensue. We are now dealing with issues that are so foundationally important to an individual's sense of self, their grip on reality, their view of themselves and life on Earth, from the veracity of various religions. There are certain global religions, there is no evidence that it existed. It's a manufactured religion, and we've got billions of people following religions, or millions of people. You just can't say that X never existed and it's a great lie. People have to slowly be moved from one point to another in their own time. And that's important, in their own time. So the truth comes out, the truth comes out. Some of us can latch onto it and away you go, and others very slowly will make their own progress. But you cannot travel at the speed of the slowest individual, otherwise you'd never move. And so this final counteroffensive, which started back with Kennedy's alleged assassination, 60-odd plus years ago, this final kind of counteroffensive had to kick off and move as quick as it could without leaving too many people behind, but not traveling at the speed of the slowest either. And so as the White Hats infiltrated the structure, they mapped the structure. This is systems warfare. They mapped the adversary structure. Who's actually running this from top to bottom? And they're talking about, again, we're not talking about national leaders. National leaders are nothing. They are literally nothing. They are the unskilled labor to put their face on TV. But all the groups above them that go up to the Committee of 300 and the rest, and you'll get my drift. That had to be understood, penetrated, and then replaced from the top down. And so the people underneath, one by one, were still getting orders from what they thought was the same chain of command, but it was actually now white hat driven to a large extent. The black hats were now getting orders from white hats, and the black hats kept passing it out. Now, replacing everybody would have been too great a burden, because you just can't find that many people. Imagine this is a TV show. This is a movie with an audience of 7 billion people, and you need a cast of hundreds of millions to pull this off. Can't do it. And so they replaced or they controlled, and that's the way to do it. The ones they could control, and you'll see them on TV, these are the real actors, but they're now saying things years ago, because the man turns up with an envelope, shows them a 6x8 of them doing nasty things to children, and it's a case of, do what we say, we'll put a bullet in your head. And most of them are cowards, and so they'll say, okay, I'll do what you say. And now you've got all these people on, and let's talk simply, actors, politicians, chief executives of major corporations. These are all low-level nothings, to be honest. But they are now doing and saying what they are told to say and do, because that's a cheaper, faster way to do it from the white hat perspective. The ones that don't, they get, and the very bad ones, they get cashiered, charged, tried, found guilty, executed, and a mask in place. And you can see it, all of a sudden Hillary dropped 6 inches in height. Or, Elon Musk is now taller than ever before, and. So you just have to look at it and you'll see the changes. Now, how many and which ones? I mean, we can have a panel on who's gone down, but what's more important is which ones were executed. The really bad people. That you're just done, and it doesn't matter that your legacy is trashed. And then you've got the really bad people, but for some reason, in the hearts and the minds of the people, if this person is shown to be a piece of baby raping filth, it would be too destabilizing. So here's what happens: they get charged, tried, and they continue the role, or they're executed. It plays their place. Because the legacy is helpful to the white hats to maintain stability psychologically and emotionally for a lot of people. It could be a movie star that everyone loves. Well, the real one's dead, and there's an actor or a guy in a mask taking his role. Same with political leaders. And so I just wanted to set the scene of why it was necessary to do this and to continue to do this for some time. We might find out in 150 years that X was a baby raping pedophile, but it doesn't matter, because all the people who put their trust into X or whoever this individual is are now past, if that makes sense. It's important that we transition through generationally through from where we are to where we need to be. When the fans of this particular actor, politician, business leader, whatever you want to call it, when they're all dead and gone, we can look back and go, hey, here's the real list of people that were actually bad guys, but the strategy was necessary. And it happened early in Australia because there was a state election many years ago. And I said on the commentary one night, I was laughing at the result because I said they voted for a dead guy. The screen went black immediately, which is, I'm sure, the White House was saying, too much too soon, mate. Just dial it down a fraction. And so when I came back on about 5 seconds later, 10 seconds later, I went, okay, sorry, I spoke out of turn. That's to come out. It's extraordinarily complex. And I know that they've had skilled people out of Hollywood, writers, producers, directors, who have disappeared, gone into let's call witness protection, of putting this thing together, because these guys are the guys that can make magic happen. They can tell stories. They know when the high point of the story is, where the low point, when a character can be killed, when he can't be killed, which character is going to have to continue for 3 more episodes because we have to take the people with us to see how we're going with it. And so it's an extraordinarily complex and elegant way of solving an otherwise insoluble problem. So again, context and which ones are dead, the worst. The reputations of some will continue for a while, and others are just scared and they're just saying things that they don't want to say, but they have to, because if they don't, one name, Nancy, who was marched in, from my information, she was herself, and she was involved in one of the, after she was told to behave herself, she was found in a conspiracy for an assassination attempt on Trump, and so she broke the terms of her agreement, and she was dispatched quite quickly. And that's just one of countless numbers of names that I've heard. But anyway, that should open the door up for everybody else.
Sorry to interrupt you, Riccardo. You blocked out, at least on my earpiece. Who's the woman you're referring to in this last thing you just said? Who is that person?
Nancy Pelosi.
Thank you. Okay. Listen, wow. What an incredible synopsis, Riccardo. Thank you. A responsible PSYOP deployment is what we're talking about. A responsible PSYOP deployment, and it had to be this way, and I understand that now. And also, other words I've jotted down from your response is some have been executed, some have been imprisoned, some are replaced, and others are controlled. And you know what? That summarizes everything from a 40,000-foot view. But I want to go, and thank you very much. Let's go through the panel. This is our last question. Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox, weigh in on this fascinating subject that the people need some clarity on. I'm losing my earpiece, but go ahead, continue.
The first thing I learned about the movie was that there are three people running the whole show. Trump, remember the Treasury Secretary Mnuchin? Mnuchin was a Hollywood producer, not a Treasury Secretary.
Wow.
And there's a third one who's a woman that nobody knows who she is. And they're running the show. The show has 200,000 actors. And if you remember, Trump said in the last month or so, central casting has been very busy.
Yes.
And the key is that those of us who have a spiritual relationship can see it. They say that Elon Musk is on his third actor. You're laughing, but it's true. He's not the first one, and he's not the second one. He's the third one. Somebody talked about 10 years to get it all done. There was a professor at Harvard named Cotter who talked about change. And he said, change is a 10-year process. There are those in the first 3 years who have it all, accept it all right away. That's the people on this panel. Then there are those who take another 3 years to start to accept it. And at the end of 10 years, everybody's accepted it. And I'm going to go back on a personal experience. I wrote a document that changed something significantly in the Army in, what year was it? 1998. 10 years later, everybody accepted it. But in the middle, there was all kinds of turmoil. And we're going to see that. We're going to see the turmoil, but we're going to get there because the movie is being done so well. I saw something the other day that 93 of the senators were replaced in 2020 with actors. And that we have the Black Boot Club, where people are given the opportunity to not have to get hung. And as long as they comply, they stay in their place, but they have a black boot on. The black boot's tracking them. If they lose their black boot, guess where they end up? An actor replaces them. And so we are watching a movie, and it's been a long playing movie. And it, with 500,000 sealed indictments, it's got to be a big movie. That's my thoughts.
Wow. Again, great analysis. Folks, we are watching a movie. Michael, Jaco, would you like to weigh in on the movie?
Sure. Yeah, I can give you one example. Osama bin Laden. So Osama bin Laden, we'd look for him for well over a decade. I was in theater looking for him when I worked for the CIA. It was like one of the main things they wanted to find him. So we eventually started to narrow that search down. There are a lot of good people in CIA, more than bad people, right? So we put a lot of pressure on finding him. I was part of that group. I would dress up in disguise as a local. I could pass off as a local, and I walked the streets, and we worked with a guy that was a doctor that would eventually lead us to Osama bin Laden or someone that looked like him, right? Because there was questions about whether he was still alive. So eventually my old SEAL team, SEAL Team 6, Red Squadron, went in and hit and made that hit. I was in theater when that went down, and I saw the bullet hole within an hour that it blew out the side of his head. So whoever that was, that lie, whatever that was, is gone. Now, before that, years before that, when he was in Pakistan, no one knew that he was in Pakistan. We did. We were just trying to find him in Pakistan. The local Pakistanis loved Osama bin Laden. He was a folk hero. 80% of the people agreed with Osama bin Laden. And then the attacks started to happen in Pakistan. In fact, Pakistan at one time had more terrorist attacks than anywhere else in the world. And there seemed to be like he might have been in collusion with some of those attacks. And then the people went from 80% liking Osama bin Laden to 20%. Right. So we're seeing that process happen in America right now, where someone like Obama is going to lose those people that like him. The 80% of whoever likes him are whittling down very quickly. So you're going to see that arrest of whoever that is. It doesn't matter if it's really him or not. Whoever the persona is that eventually gets taken out, like that, that little skit that we saw with President Trump look-alike, Obama look-alike. So that was a little skit. That was, the actors came in and did that. But it's basically getting us to the point where someone, whoever, if it is him or not, will be arrested, and it will be okay with most of the population at that point. So that's whoever is like Nancy Pelosi looking like, Joe Biden looking like, whoever it is, when those people are revealed for who they are and what they've done, you won't have any support for them, and it'll be easy to take them out.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that information that we can only get from you. Thank you very much. I have a quick follow-up question, and we'll close out with Derek Johnson. The arrest of Barack Obama arguably is imminent. What is imminent? August 4th, 3 months from now, whatever, it's coming. If it's already occurred in the movie, and one would assume, based on the charges of treason and crimes against humanity and so forth, the untold deaths that he's responsible for, if it's already occurred, one would come to the conclusion, based on what this panel has reported to us and what we know to be the truth, that he would have been executed. So these actors, if that's the case, my question, Michael, is simply this, and I think you've alluded to it, but I just want to be clear for our viewers and for myself. When this arrest of Obama and Hillary Clinton, because I believe that's what's coming, and Josh has some other folks there, look, they're all going to get arrested. But my question is, Barack Obama's arrest may be imminent. When we see that on the television and the internet and the whole world is watching this event, is it something that has already occurred that Gitmo, President, the White Hats, the military is now responsibly showing to us a past event? Is that what's going to happen? And if so, will the people be told this already happened, or will it still be under the guise that it's happening now? Do you follow my line of question? Can you comment on that, please?
Yeah, I've seen this happen quite a bit in combat, where someone has been eliminated, but it's not time for that to break into the public. It can take a while. And just like any movie that's created, they have to go in and they have to do cuts and, make everything look good and put it in perspective. And they're like, okay, we're going to release it now, but then something happens and they push the release date. So all these things are going on right now with a lot of these different actors that are bad actors. And I think many of them have been eliminated or in prison. Eliminated, I think a lot of them eliminated because there's a lot of treason going on out there. So is it, part of that game where we're seeing that's part of what they say. It's all a movie. Of course, when hurricanes hit, that's not part of a movie and they still have control. But for the most part, a lot of these bad actors have been taken into account and dealt with.
Thank you, Michael. I heard everything. My producer's texting me. Such valuable panel, such great analysis, and I really hope this show goes far and wide because I think it'll help to some extent in the 10-year process. Maybe escalate it a little bit for us. Thank you, Michael, Jaco. And it reminds me when you're talking about cut, edit the movie, so forth and so on. It kind of reminds me of the moon landing. If one listens to Stanley Kubrick's closing statements before he was done away with, and Buzz Aldrin, but we won't go there right now. We got to wrap up the show. So I've got to move us through. Derek Johnson, the buck stops with you here. Comment on the what we're discussing here, the movie.
Well, I'd like to say it like this. I'll set it up really fast and then I'll just do a couple examples. But you got to trust somebody. I learned this in Nashville. A big hit producer one time asked me, I said I had a great idea for a song and he wanted the idea. And I texted a buddy. I'm like, he wants the idea. What if he takes it from me? My buddy said, man, you got to trust somebody. Now, how you trust them? Good person. Well, we all know being a good person on the front is how you be a good person in the middle and a good person in the end. It always starts there. My mother always told me as a young boy, it's like you start with a lie, you got to finish with a lie. All right. And you know how the lie is going to end up. But if you do what's right on the front, and you're honest up front, and you're transparent up front, guess what? Tell the truth. And if it hurts, tell the truth. And we don't teach that anymore in our schools, children, etc. Some do, but not on the grandiose. Consistency. All right. Major Jim O'Connor says all the time that, hey, if you can't sit on the fence, the devil owns the fence. So you got to pick your side. But he also says if it's not of love, power, and a sound mind, like the Bible says, if it's creating confusion, disruption, anger, whatever it is, negativity in your life, you probably don't want it. All right. Because this is a biblical operation as well as monumental and historical. All right. Laws and orders. You heard people saying, you were talking about how do people know who to listen to? Well, military laws and orders are not conspiracy theories. I can tell you right now, every one of these guys right here, the way they got to their rank in the military was following laws and orders, but also our regulations of the military. So how did we get here in the world? You got to ask people, how did we get here in the world? The world didn't just get here for nothing, right? If you believe in evolution, God, whatever you believe in, you got to believe in something got us here. My grandfather always used to say, when people say, I wish I lived in the old days, he said, no, you don't. He could look at them and tell they wouldn't have made it when there wasn't central air and central heat and other things. So then do you want what you had, or do you want something different? As Lieutenant Colonel Bosi said a while ago, it's like if you want something that you've always had, well, you had that, right? So if you want the deep state, you don't want change, then you've already had that. So there's a line in the sand, right? And that's what we use in the military. There's a line been drawn in the sand. The line was drawn November the 8th, 2016. All right. So a parameter was set. military occupation, continuity of government doesn't mean there wasn't a battle. There was a parameter set. But to show you that this was a movie, but also a lawful movie, the 2018 biodefense strategy. 2018 biodefense, it reads word for word what everybody saw in 2020. All right, so it shows you that the good guys, the generals, the world leaders, the leaders who capitulated to President Trump and the generals, all right, it shows the good guys already had things in place to prevent. But you can't do what? You can't tattle on people. We're adults, right? So you set a parameter, you draw a line in the sand, you say, come on my side and do what's right for humanity. They didn't do that. All right, certain people, so they're going to face their punishment. So it's like Lieutenant Colonel Bosi also said, you don't replace everybody initially. You take out the big ones you need, the big fish, and then you let the others scramble around and slip up and show their colors. Because all these guys know here, every single one of them, these men, they know for a fact that certain people, that skill sets, the deep state, it's like President Trump said, there's two classes of people. You got stupid people, all right, and dumb. All right, then you got the stupid and evil, right? The stupid and evil are also just as skilled as every one of us on this panel here. They're stupid, meaning their choices, monetarily speaking, and also criminal wise. The stupid and dumb are your people like Pelosi and some of them, right? You got some of those in that category. So you set a parameter, then you make your enemy go to a funnel. All right, it's called the stalemate position. And then they have to do what? They have to raise the white flag. So if you watch Hunter Biden's new interview, right, Hunter Biden, if you watch him, he's telling on everything that we've already been called a conspiracy theory for. And he's just one of the small fall guys. It's going to build up. So like actors, look at Obama. If you hated President Trump, or if you hated anybody, hate's a strong word. And if you go by the terminology of hate, if you hate somebody, then you would do everything you could if you were on your last stand to do what? Take them out, lie about them, whatever it is. Obama hasn't posted on his Twitter in over 12 days. All right, so all this stuff's unraveling. Michelle, Big Mike, whatever you want to call he, her, whatever, whoever's out there, right, hasn't posted since June the 19th. All right, if that's her man being attacked by, how she talks, I can talk Southern and jive. I can do that. My man, ain't nobody going to mess with my man. Well, where is she at? Where's the post at? Not one. Comey hasn't posted anything about President Trump on his, and all his comments are on lockdown. You can't even comment on it yourself. All right, so to show people, you tell on yourselves, right? And they stalemated them. All right, and then just two little things, just to show you. All right, January the 20th, by military regulations, that's not a conspiracy theory. That's all Army regulations. And since the only other one here that's Army is Lieutenant Colonel Lennox, but if I messed up, and Lieutenant Colonel Lennox was my commander, he would first ask me, hey, what does regulations say about whatever I did if I messed up with something to do with the military? And if I'm sitting there going, I don't know, then guess what he's going to be? He's going to be a little bit harder on me because I don't know my regulations. All right, so January the 20th, that was all military regulations where Joe didn't get a flight into D.C. on Air Force One. Air Force One, not Trump Force One. All right, the three cannons at Arlington, that's Army regulations. That's not conspiracy. That's just straight up, hey, our military wouldn't have done that. Our Army wouldn't have done that. The oldest unit in the Army wouldn't have done that. 1784? No, they wouldn't have done that. So all those things you saw, all right, and then the order of successions. Every president has had an order of succession except for, quote unquote, Joe Biden in a military domain. So that shows you right there, the good guys are in control. Now, I know people get tired of hearing, oh, it's a movie. But it is a movie from that standpoint to whoever sees it as a movie. Just like Lieutenant Colonel Lennox said, the spirituality part. There's some who are seeing it as a movie. Those of us over here, like I tell people, if you follow all of us in our work, you can see it from the operational standpoint and get a better grasp and clarity and peace and comfort and solace where you won't be disrupt when one little hiccup hits the TV or whatever it is, because that's all part of the grandiose plan. And then one last thing, for Jaco's sake, I didn't make it earlier, but it proves out perfect for Obama, Jaco, me, the colonels, everybody, military veterans, all of those that we wear memorial bracelets for, everybody in history, right? The Supreme Court docket 23-939, it specifically asks, Can a president order SEAL Team 6 to commit murder on a political rival? The last time SEAL Team 6 was involved with anybody leader-wise and a president was Barack Hussein Obama and Osama bin Laden. All right. And multiple combat generals and senior level officials from the executive branch in that docket case says a resounding no. All right. Obama, that was 2011, May the 2nd, excuse me. All right. 5 months later, who else was taken out? Gaddafi. All right. Who wanted a gold bat? He wanted gold bat to come back. All right. He was the leader of Libya. Who was involved with Benghazi? Who was Barack Hussein's Secretary of State in 2009 to 2013 and 2011? And who stood in front of the UN Assembly and said the same 5 world powers can't rule the world forever? And he also said, are you going to investigate what happened to Saddam Hussein? He was friends of Cheney until they killed him. All right, so that's going to open a massive can of worms. That one docket case shows you what's coming for the American people. And it got me banned briefly on True Social about a week ago until we made some texts to Siggy Flicker, and it got to Devin Nunes, and they brought me back up and gave me a red check after that. But Lieutenant Colonel Bosi, we know how it is, right? We get that block every now and then.
Well, listen, I've got to wrap up the show. My producer is knocking on my door. Thank you, Derek Johnson. Folks, you're watching the greatest show on earth. That's what's happening. And you're a part of it. Keep doing your part. I hope that this particular question provides levity and gravity for those that are a bit uncertain about that aspect of this war. I've got to go. I want all of our viewers to know, visit johnmichaelchambers.com, click on the follow tab, get to my Rumble channel. We will post the links of each of our wartime correspondent esteemed panel guests so you can follow their work directly. Sorry for the abrupt closing. Usually we have a more elaborate closing. I want to thank our esteemed guests. I'll be right back with some closing comments. We are at war, and we must unite in truth. Subscribe for free at johnmichaelchambers.com for my monthly communique, which includes alerts, warnings, announcements, and access to my most valuable resource network to help you to navigate this storm. With your free subscription, you will also receive a digital copy of one of my books, Trump and the Resurrection of America, an Amazon 5-star rated book and 6-star rated by the late Robert David Steele. Won't you join me as we take our country back and redirect humanity on this much-needed course correction? Remain informed, empowered, and connected, and subscribe today at johnmichaelchambers.com. Again, click the follow tab on my Rumble channel, and you get there by visiting johnmichaelchambers.com. Click on follow. In the show notes, you will see the links to each of our panel guests so you can continue to follow their work. And of course, we produce the Global Defense War monthly panel. Well, monthly. I want to thank our esteemed guests for their time and expertise in today's panel addressing issues that concern each and every one of us, not only here in America, but across the world. If we could put this image up on the screen, John Michael Chambers Broadcasting. This is a way to subscribe for free to my weekly newsletter, which includes an audio JMC Unplugged, gaining a lot of popularity for those that have access to it. This is free. You get a copy of my digital copy of my book. So go to johnmichaelchambers.com and click the subscribe button. We appreciate you coming aboard. Also here is the JMC Broadcasting schedule. It's up before you on the screen. These are the programs that we have at jmcbroadcasting.com or johnmichaelchambers.com. The schedule is there before you. We have a new panel show coming with Juan O'Savin, his chief of staff, retired colonel from the Marines, Matt Meck, and 2 generals whose names won't be announced just yet. Check out the new JMC Broadcasting schedule by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com. Also, for notifications and my weekly communique, sign up again for free on Rumble and on my website by visiting jmcvoice.com. Hit the subscribe button. Now, remember, as I close out, there's two sides, good and evil. That aside, there's really not two sides. That's the trap. That's the lie. There's only the truth, which is now being shown. Open up, have a look around. It's very important. So continue to do your part, fight for what's right, and together we will save America and redirect humanity on this course correction. Be safe, stay alert, and may God be with you.